Hello, everybody. Welcome back. It's the Gaming Enforcement Agency right here on Geek Aloud, 8 p.m. Thursday night, second slotting it this evening. Unky Dunky, welcome back, sir.
Mate, it's very good to be back. There's been a lot of games. I'm ready to talk about them.
Perfect. And third slotting it this evening, no video, unfortunately, is Bully. How are you, mate?
Yeah, some minor technical difficulties, but I can still, hopefully, we can get through with just the chat.
She'll be right, mate. We've got your photo on screen, so we're all covered. Everyone can see you and hear you. We're underway here. Let me tell you, fine folks at home, how this show runs. First up, it's games, interrogation, and deliberation. It's the seven games the three of us have been hands-on with this week. And then we go over to the newsroom. Unky, how many doors did you kick in this evening?
The big fat 5, Troy.
5 stories coming into the news segment. And then it's everyone's favorite, the standoff. Unky Dunky, what are the constraints and how many entrants?
Mate, tonight we are looking at the best Bethesda, with Starfield being a new IP for Bethesda. We ask which existing Bethesda franchise would we want a new game from most?
And audience integration is the 4th segment. So anytime throughout the evening, chat your comments in. If you've got a Bethesda, I can't say it, Unky. You say it, help me.
A best Bethesda game.
Thank you very much. If you've got one of those, throw it in the chat. It'll count towards the standoff when we get there. And other than that, Bully, are you right to patrol the chat and flick up comments live as they come through, sir?
Most certainly am.
Fantastic. That's what's going to happen. Let's kick in a newsroom door, shall we? Nope. Games, interrogation, and deliberation. All right, first up this evening, we have the fantastic, I'll go ahead and say, Starfield. Look at this, Unky, 5 minutes in, stepping out of the vault, sir. How have you found it?
There we go. Oh, I've loved it. Speaking of best Bethesda, this easily has the ability to become my favourite Bethesda game. I am so deep into this game now. It took a little while to warm up.
How deep?
Compared to a lot of others. I'm probably sitting at around that 12, 13 hour mark. I'm
at 11.
At level 50. At level 15, my character is at the moment.
I'm just level 10.
Yeah, so Bully, where are you at level-wise, hour-wise?
Just hit level 12 and probably 8 or 9 hours in, I think.
Yeah, nice. So I sort of found around the 8 to 9 hour mark. I started to get to grips with probably most of the mechanics and stuff that does see itself be a little bit different from the Fallout games, where you do have that one big world where you are sort of traveling to different worlds, and you really sort of have to find that Bethesda what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of the flow of gameplay like that you would normally have just
gameplay loop
sort of straight away. Yeah, that's probably it. More sort of the gameplay loop. So I'm really sort of stuck into that now that I've sort of worked out how you could almost call it fast travel the game. There's a lot of fast travel in this game, but I think it would slow down and be too hard if it didn't do that. I sort of like being able to just sort of even just simple things, which it takes you a while to figure out. Because I'm not sure if it tutorializes a lot of this stuff, but being able to just select a mission and then fast travel directly to that planet from the mission select menu, or just jumping out to the planet and hitting that thing and fast travel, or just bringing up your sort of visor and being able to select your ship when you sort of want to transport and fast travel yourself that way.
I got to jump in there, man. I got to throw you and Bully massive thank yous for helping me through the fast traveling system. I was about 3 hours in and very, very confused, and you boys helped me out beautifully and got me on the right track so I could see loading screen the game. Back to you, Unky.
Yeah, that's right. And I mean, it does. And there's a few times where, like, you might have a mission that you're the solar system too far away and you don't have enough fuel in your spacecraft to get there. So you might have to jump to a sort of slightly closer solar system or planet and go there. But I think that's part of the whole exploration stuff. Like your Fallouts and sort of, you want to get from point A to point B, and you might have to go through a whole bunch of different towns or cities, and that's where you find your sort of side quests and different NPCs to interact with. This is like you have to stop at a different planet or solar system. You might come across a space battle, and then all of a sudden you're boarding an enemy ship, or you might help out another friendly ship, and that becomes its own quest. You might just speak to a random. On that? Yep.
It's giving me throwbacks to Mass Effect in a fantastic way for exactly what you're saying. Please continue.
Yeah, and that's what it is. Like, even just the most innocuous thing, like I killed just a random NPC soldier outside of a base on another mission, and then just looted that body, and then they had like a data disk in it, and I looked at that, and that created a whole mission. It's like, okay, now got a side quest called, I'll drop the name of the quest, it's a really good, it's called Mantis, which I've spoken to Troy about, and if you unlock this mission, that mission is probably easily one of the best side quests I have been on since starting this game, and it just blew my mind, not only with the quest, it was the dialogue, it was the way the story was told, it was the unlockable stuff that you get from completing that mission. It just completely changed the game for me in a way, the way I'm playing the game, not only with some of the abilities the space suit gets you, but it's just the spacecraft that you get with that makes space combat more fun, because all of a sudden you're destroying enemies a bit faster. But it was just the story that it told. And I think, yes, some NPCs look better than others, and you can tell where the money's gone with the main NPCs compared to like your generic Bethesda NPC that stares blankly at you, or will just appear behind your other character when you're speaking to them. But
I've got a fantastic one coming up in this footage in a bit.
Awesome. But so it does definitely have some of that Bethesda jank per se, but this is easily the most polished game Bethesda has brought out. And I think that is due to the delay. It's due to being solely on Xbox and working with Microsoft, and putting that extra time and money into it has managed to, create the most polished Bethesda experience we've had. And I'm really enjoying that. I'm really enjoying the shooting. I like the shooting mechanics. I really enjoy it as a shooter. Whereas Fallout, like, you can't really say I ever enjoyed the combat per se, apart from the VAT system, which is essentially just pausing the game and selecting some places you want to shoot. But with this, it's got your proper first-person shooter feel, and I really enjoy it. You got really good feedback on the way the enemies get shot, and they move when they get hit, and they crawl away, and you can shoot them in the arse as they're crawling away from you. But I just really enjoy the combat. And yes, you can play the game in third person or first person as well, which I really enjoy. So I'm
Which
one of those
way
guys.
Are you playing?
So generally, if I'm in tight spaces or combat, I'm playing first person. But if I'm just sort of out exploring planets and stuff, or on my way to another destination or building or landmarks, then I'm probably just playing in third person, just because you've got some such great graphics in there, and you've got all the different spacesuits and weapons that you can see. So I really enjoy seeing my character from those perspectives and stuff as well. So I do like being able to flick, and I've always done the same with the Fallout games, being able to flick between the two. I really enjoy that aspect of the Bethesda games.
Yeah, nice. How are you playing it, Billy? First person, third person?
First person only. I can't. I just can't play these games, any of the Bethesda games in a third person. As much as I'd like to, and I agree with you, Anki, that you get some of the stuff you can get for your character, and basically how you design it and all the rest of it's pretty much lost on me. You may as well just give me the best suit available, because I'm never going to look at it.
No, that's fair. Lucky some of the suits do come with some pretty special abilities and stuff sort of later on when you start getting sort of more legendary suits and stuff. They give you some really cool buffs and stuff. So, yeah, provided they give you some good stuff, I don't really care too much the way they look. But this game is, I have to say, very, very pretty. It's one of the best lighting I've seen in a game for a long time. Yes, it's only running at 30 frames per second. We've had this discussion multiple times this year, but once you start playing a game at 30 for a while, that sort of just goes away. It just blends.
Yeah.
The game just looks great. And for a game as big and vast as this, I've had very rarely any hiccups when it comes to graphics and frame rate. Like, you might get a hitch every now and again when it might be loading something, but as far as performance goes, this is streaks ahead of what Star Wars Jedi Survivor was putting out in its 30 frame mode as well. It's just running really well. And as I said, for the amount of stuff it's doing, some of those locations just look absolutely perfect. Like the lighting in some of these areas, even just the first area inside a mine, and your torch lights up and you see all the particle effects and stuff. Yep. And then you come out and it has its moment where you're sort of opening up. It's not quite as grand as something like a Tears of the Kingdom or even Fallout 3, where you open to the vastness of those open worlds, but it still has that moment where it opens up and all of a sudden you've been, in this mine, all of a sudden you see this open world, you see the vast sky and the moons and the stars in the sky, and just the amount of attention to detail there is to it. And with the planets, like, you'll go to a solar system and you'll notice if you land on the side of the planet that's facing that solar system sun, you'll land in daytime, but if that part of the planet's in the dark, you'll land at its nighttime. Just small details like this, it's just incredible. And I think they should be applauded for a game that was built up with so much hype. For me, I didn't think it would go near the hype, but for me right now, being as hooked as I am on this game, I actually reckon they've done it. I reckon this is the IP that Xbox has needed. It's the win they've needed, especially since Redfall came out and was a flop, as much as I sort of grew to enjoy that game, and hopefully they sort of work more on that. I think they've got such a good base here now that we know the modders are going to come out there and do stuff. We know they're going to drop DLC. It's what Bethesda does with these games, and I can only see this game getting bigger and better as time goes on. And from what I'm hearing, this game does something cool with New Game Plus that really makes you want to play through it, not even once, twice, 3 times, even up to 4 or 5 times. And things are still changing in this game from what I'm hearing. I haven't looked into it.
Let me just jump in for a sec, man. Have a look on the screen now. You can see the character models glitching out in a conversation here. She's just constantly trying to walk through Sam Coe, and if you watch here in a sec, she like walks up and over his head and lands on his back facing the other way. So
is that Sarah?
There it is right there. Yeah, it is.
I tried very unsuccessfully to romance her. She's shut me down twice now. So I think I've done
flirt option, or taking it beyond the flirt option.
No, I haven't even got past the flirt. She's like, "Oh, I see you just as a friend." I'm like, "Damn it, I carried you for ages." So now I'm hanging out with Barrett, I think his name is.
That's funny. I only used her on that sort of first mission where you had to. And then I
Yeah.
haven't used her again since. And then here, like 11 hours in, the first time flirt option came up for her, I hit it and went for it. It was fine.
Oh, damn you. Maybe I spent too much time with her. Maybe she know too much about me.
Yeah, treat him mean, mate.
That's it. But I like to see Sam Cobb. Like I'm sort of on main missions with him at the moment. I kind of like his jive with the whole cowboy thing going on the planet Lando with him as well.
How much does he sound like Timothy Oliphant?
Yes, I was trying to pick it the other night. I was like, he sounds very similar to someone. I was going to actually Google to see who the voice actor was, but no, you're right. I reckon Timmy Oliphant's who he sounds like.
Yeah, it's amazing. And sorry, Bully, anything from you on those points, mate?
Oh no, I'm the same. I've sort of stuck with Sam Coe. I think just for some reason I just like his style. The only thing that sort of gets me a little bit is he's constant wants to chat to you about his kid. That sort of. It gets a bit grating, but I actually like him as a character, and apart from that, I haven't, to be honest, I haven't really tried any of the romance things yet. I've sort of been watching, as you're interacting with different characters and having conversations, whether it's with your party members or with just general NPCs and stuff like that. You can see your party's reaction to that by going, that person liked this or didn't like that, and that sort of stuff. So I'm sort of working on a little bit of that to try and work out what they like and what they don't like, to try and get it up to the point where if you're going to start romancing them, it's going to be might be a little bit easier if they think a bit more highly of you, I think.
I haven't looked anyway. Does anyone know? Do you get an achievement for successfully romancing someone?
Oh, probably. I'd say that's probably one of them. I haven't looked yet. No, I can't tell you because I haven't successfully romanced it yet.
Did you not go for the chiseled jawline? I certainly did. Maybe that was the problem.
Nah, my bloke's he looks like Nathan Drake, so he shouldn't have too much of an issue.
He shouldn't have any problems with the ladies.
No, he shouldn't. He shouldn't. So I did my best to create Nathan. I was actually pretty impressed with the character creator in this. I thought it was quite a good one. I didn't spend quite as long in this as I did with Baldur's Gate creating a character, but that's mainly because Baldur's Gate's ridiculous when it comes to the amount of things you can add to your character. But that being said, all the traits and everything you can add to your character here and pick and choose, it took me a bit. It was a bit stressful trying to pick the right ones and what sort of starting sort of abilities I wanted to have. But now you sort of once you work into the game a bit, so you sort of figure out how you want to play the game. So I'm sort of playing a bit more stealthy now and make sure I've got my lockpick strength up. I've upped all my encumbrance to as high as I possibly can because I've got that's. I think it's one of the main gripes I have with the game is the inventory management system. It's a little bit clunky in the fact that you've got to sort of consistently transport stuff to your offsider and make them carry it. And when you go to sell it, there's no option to sort of just bring up whatever they've got. You can bring up whatever your ship's got, but just not them. So I think there'll probably be patches, and they'll probably listen to feedback from most of the players in relation to that stuff, and maybe up our encumbrance as it is, because I just don't think it's enough for a game that's sort of, it's a Bethesda game. So you're picking up bloody everything because everything needs requirements. There's about 400 different types of ammo. I swear every gun I've got, which I've got some really good ones now, I swear no matter what gun it is, it's got some kind of different ammo attached to it.
Yep.
So as cool as that is, and as cool as some of these guns are, I was like, I would like a more streamlined ammo, a way the ammo system works somehow, because it's awesome guns, which the ammo I've got maybe 19 bullets for, yet something else I've got 900 bullets for, and then there's some with 200 or 300. So you're really trying to manage your ammo capacity on some of your favorite guns to use. But no, I really enjoy what they've done with the combat and stuff. And I don't want to spoil too much in relation to what other stuff you get later on, but that really sort of does broaden what you can do within the game as well. It sort of does move the main campaign forward, which I'm really enjoying the main campaign, but I've been so sidetracked by some of these side missions. Just a simple mission, a faction mission I was doing. You get different factions you can work for and get a job. So I got a job as an underling, and I worked my way up very quickly. I've got some coffees, and while I was on the coffee mission, I just had some blokes that used to work there, and all of a sudden he was bloody holding me up at gunpoint in their version of Starbucks. Oh, that escalated quickly. So I had to use my powers of persuasion, which I bumped a few points into, and managed to persuade him to not shoot me in the face, which was nice. But
nice. Jump in, sorry. On screen now is another glitch I came across. Old mate here was just stuck in the ground. He got randomly spawned, and then he never animated. He just laid there, and he was a high level. He's level 16. I'm level 10 at this point. And he just laid there and didn't shoot, and then he gets stuck in the ground. And then I had a misfire, and I had to reload the save, and I think it's about to come on screen. I go straight back to that bloke, and he's T-posing again. Oh, no, wait, here's the other bug where I'm speaking to, I'm blanking on this bloke's name, but check it out. For some reason, he draws his weapon and runs off mid-conversation with me.
It's Big Barrett there, I reckon.
And then he never resumes the conversation, and you can't exit out. Like, you can't. The only way out was to pause and reload the previous checkpoint. Like, that's one hell of a glitch when they can mid-conversation, like something in the world, a wild animal or something drew his fire.
Yeah, wow.
And then he couldn't re-enter the conversation tree. It was crazy. Sorry, mate, I interrupted you.
No, that's all right. It's weird. I've not found any of these types of bugs yet at all. I think Bully said he might have had one crash. I haven't had any crashes yet on this game. So Bully might be able to speak to more on that, whether he's had any more issues with the performance-wise. But yeah, for me, I've pretty much a flawless experience so far.
Fair enough. Sorry. And there's back to old mate again. And this is where he's T-posing. So I flick it down to the old combat knife and then just shank him in the back about 30 times until he drops. Bully, any bugs from your side, mate?
Oh, I have got a few. So as you mentioned, Unky, I've had one hard crash, and I've had a lockup where it didn't crash, but it just wouldn't load, wouldn't do anything. And then I've had a couple of texture bugs as well, similar to what you're describing, Troy. So I've had some of the ragdoll effects of the enemies, like they end up, it's like a rubber ball. They're pinballing off the floor and the roof, like constantly up and down and up and down. I think the funniest one was I shot a bloke, and for some reason he went flying into the roof, but his head got stuck in the roof. So then his torso and legs were dangling from the top of the roof, and just sort of hanging there like he was, but still moving. So he was dancing around. It was quite funny. So
I hope you've got footage of that to share, mate. That's great.
I do have quite a few. Yeah, have had a few bugs, and it's probably that's probably the disappointing part for me is that you know, a lot of the previous games, Bethesda games, and you know, some people have been prepared to look the other way on those sort of games, say, well, you know, it is what it is. It's Bethesda. It's just part of the charm or whatever it is. But I was really hoping after, you know, their last major release in this sort of category was Fallout 3, which is going back, you know, 8-9 years ago. So I was really hoping that, given that they changed the engine and they were working with the new engine and they've had that development time plus the extra time, because I think originally it was supposed to come out at some point last year and it got delayed and all the rest of it. So I would have thought with that extra time they would have been able to polish a lot of that stuff up. And look, don't get me wrong, I understand a lot of the complexities with it. You know, no two game is ever going to be the same because someone will pick up something different, they'll place it down, they'll drop it, you know, they'll kill different enemies, whatever it is. So there's no way that you can anticipate every single outcome that each different player is going to play it. But I still would have thought that there would have been a bit more polish in it, that we wouldn't be having these sort of, you know, bugs within the first week. So hopefully well, I know what they're like, and as you said, Unky, they'll be hard at work. I'm sure they'll be patching, but it'll be interesting to see how that works out over the coming weeks and months.
Can you rank this for me, Bully, then, in your experience of like Bethesda game at launch? Did something launch in your recollection that was less buggy than Starfield?
The only one I can recall is probably Skyrim on the PS3. That was just trash when it released. But having most of the other ones, like Skyrim on the 360, I never had an issue with. Fallout 4 never had an issue with.
Yep.
That sort of stuff. So I've actually seen more bugs in Starfield than what I have in those two games, which are the two major sort of ones. And then maybe even going back to Fallout 3, I don't think I really had any bugs in that. So that's why I find it really disappointing that I'm getting more in this. And maybe I was just lucky with those other games, I'm not sure, and just unlucky in this one. It could be the case, but as I said, with that time and effort and energy they've been able to put into development, I would have thought a lot of that would have been squared away.
Yeah, fair calls, mate. Unky, do you want to explain what's on screen and maybe put in a little spoiler warning?
Yeah, so a bit of a spoiler warning because so if you are watching right now and you are playing Starfield or you're not too far in the campaign, so this is a little it's not actually not that far into the main campaign. So I do implore people to sort of just play some of that main campaign just to get to this bit where sort of you start to unlock your Skyrim-esque powers in this game. So I won't elaborate. Yeah, so I won't elaborate too much on what those powers are, but yeah, so definitely push yourself to this because it does sort of create different gameplay aspects for you to have and have fun with the game. And I think a lot of people have said that that it does get to that point. It is probably around that 10, 12-hour mark where you sort of probably start to hit this bit, and the story starts to sort of take hold of you, and what's going on with these powers and stuff starts to take hold. So, yeah, really cool. I really enjoy the music in this game, especially in these parts where you go through the little glowy things, and it gives a little chime noise until eventually all the rings are spinning really quickly. Like, it's a really cool moment, and I never get tired of it.
Can you explain that mechanic to me? Because I had to do 30 touches before it unlocked, and I'm like, there has got to be something I'm missing here. There's no way you've got to tag these little light holes 30 times.
No, you've just got to do it fast, because if you notice, if you don't get to it in time, they disappear and reappear. So you've just got to make sure you look at it. I remember the first one, I was like, I reckon I'm a bit slow. What if I just speed up where I'm going? Yeah, I think it's, if you do it quick, I think it's maybe 5 or 6 you have to do only.
Yeah, right.
To get there. So, and I actually find this a bit easier to do in third-person mode as well, because you get a slightly bigger sort of range of field of view. So if you just hit your, we'll call it the select button twice to zoom back as far as you can, you'll find yourself doing this much quicker. So
that makes a lot of sense. Thank you for the pro tip. I was baffled by it. I'm like, I know I've got to hit these light holes. I cannot work out why it's not unlocking. And I just kept going, and I was counting, and I'm like, 28, 29, 30. Oh, there it is.
Yeah, no, you definitely have to do it quickly. But no, this game's got its hold of me. It's one of those games that, when I'm not playing it, I'm thinking about playing it, wanting to be playing it. I love having those games in my life where, like, I feel like, everything stops and I just want to do that one thing. And, like, even right now, I'm almost wishing we weren't podcasting so I could be playing Starfield. That's how much it's finally got its hooks into me. So, cannot wait to get back to it.
That's great, man. Let me ask you, have you spent much time customizing your ship at all?
No, not really customizing, mainly just the colors. I've sort of mainly worked on trying to find new ships. So I landed on a planet and found a ship that I saw a ship landing, so I went over to it and killed everyone there and stole their ship, which was kind of cool ship. Like, I went from having sort of the narrow sort of cockpit of the ship that I had to having like this big open front thing with like 3 seats, almost like Star Trek type, and all my crew in that front area. And it was really cool to change up to see how much the inside of the ships changed. And then going to my new sort of more starfighter ship that I got from the Mantis quest line, even different again, a bit more sort of flies more like an X-Wing type thing than the last one. So I'm really enjoying that aspect, and I probably will eventually get into the ship building and see what I can do. I've seen some awesome YouTube and TikTok videos of, some bloke he's out there he's done like the Futurama ship and Star Wars ships, and like, it's ridiculous some of the stuff these people are making out there. So it'd be nice just to sort of have a model where I can just go in and get these ships and not actually have to build them myself. But
Millennium Falcon level?
Yes, there were. Yeah. Oh, mate, you should. I'll send you the link to have a look at this video. He has made some incredible ships already. So
that's
cool. I know.
Can they share them? Is there like a shareable code?
I don't think so. I think that'll be down the track. But if there is, I'll be sure I'm signing up for one of those ships. Absolutely.
Yeah, that'd be so cool. Bully, do you spend much time with your ship creator, mate?
I haven't done any of the ship creating. I'm still in the original one. So
there's an easy 20 achievement points if you just go in there and change the color of one.
Yes.
Oh, there you go. I've sort of been. I'm probably not as far into the main quest as you guys in, because I've sort of been doing a lot of the side quests and that sort of stuff. So I probably haven't progressed as much in that sort of space, and really haven't put any time into the ship at all. I only
you haven't spent 15 minutes in the power unlock chamber like this footage?
No. I think, well, in terms of the ship, it took me a whole bunch of searching around, and then having to Google it to find out where your storage was on the ship. That's how little time I'd actually spent on it.
Yeah, right. And where is it in the end? Because I still haven't found it.
They're usually in the cockpit. It's usually in the cockpit, like on to your left to get your inventory that's inside the ship.
Yeah, or I think there's or I'm gonna have to go. If I had my controller in my hand, I'll be able to do it and show you. But
otherwise, you can just, if you click to your main menu of your screen with your character in it, you click the bottom left-hand corner with your ship and just hold X. It shows all your cargo as well.
That's cool.
Yeah, and then I think you can transfer what you're holding into your cargo from there as well.
Yeah, if you're within 250 meters of your ship, you can transport like all your resources and stuff. So if you don't want to sort of go back and do it, you can easily transport stuff. I'd wish the 250 meters was a bit more. Yes, it's not realistic to even do it at all, so I don't see why they just couldn't make it wherever you are, just to because the amount of times
Well,
you're encumbered in this game is just, it'd be nice
to be fair, it's also not realistically that you're carrying 15 guns. But anyway,
That is true. That is true.
Did you guys find the Terminator 2 grenade launcher yet? That's a lot of fun. That's my favorite weapon
Nah,
so far.
I got the only big gun I've really got is a massive chain gun at the moment.
Oh,
so
I haven't come across one of those yet. Is it a laser or ballistic?
Ballistic at the moment, yeah, but I believe there is a laser one you can get.
Nice. Bully, what's your favorite quest or side quest so far?
I don't know if I've got a favourite. I think the one thing I like with the side quests is, and Unky sort of mentioned it before, he killed someone randomly and then just looted his body and found something there. But even just wandering around the towns and stuff, I really enjoy that part of it. Is that you'll just be walking past someone and they'll be having a conversation off to the side, or they'll make a comment, and if you stop long enough to let them play out that conversation or the sentence or whatever it is, and then it'll, oh yeah, you've unlocked the quest, go and see this person, or go and do this, or go and do that. So I think I don't think I've really seen that in too many other games, if any, and it's a really novel way of doing the side quests rather than just having the token, yellow exclamation mark above their head of, here's an active quest you can go and suss out, which sort of expands, in my view, the ability when you discuss it with other people, it's really that, and I don't like really using that term, but that water cooler sort of discussion of, hey, I went over here and did this, and Unky could say, well, I've never even been there, I've got no idea what you're talking about or where you're at, and then Troy will turn around and say, yeah, I went there, but I went over to this side and did this and got that. So there's just so many different ways to play it and go about it, and different things you can access and that sort of stuff. So it's not so much the quests that are memorable for me. It's more the way you go about it. But probably the best one, I guess, for me is I've joined the Rangers, I think. So I've gone and done a couple of quests with them so far, and that starts expanding out, entirely different aspects of the story off the main quest. And I think that from what I've seen, I've been at this stage being given quest lines for 4 or 5 different factions.
Yep.
And I've only taken up the option to jump into one. But even if there's another couple on top of that, if you can imagine, 10 or 12 different factions that you could get into depending on how you want to play it and, how you want to go about things. Because I think my understanding is, and I've even seen it in some of the dialogue, is that you can be more of a scoundrel or a pirate or whatever it is. So if you don't want to go this law-abiding, save the world style character, you can go the complete opposite and become a space pirate and start, running contraband and killing people. And, if that's what your thing is. So it'd be really interesting, as you said, Unky, if there's extra elements in that new game plus, is that you could play through as, a good character as such, and then you could go and play as a bad character or play something in the middle and sort of skirt the line. So
I wonder, Bully, if you could play pirate and kill Cole's daughter so he stops talking about it.
Well, I've been very tempted just to try and pop a bullet in her and then reload when it all goes pear-shaped, I have to admit.
That's great. How are you blokes finding the scanning minigame? Have you got your scanner out much? Are you getting the resources and the natural wonders and the animals, the plant life and such?
Yeah, I find myself doing it when I'm on there. Like, I'll make sure when I'm going from point A to point B, my scanner's out and I'm scanning everything there just to sort of get that XP up as well, because it's a cheap way to get XP when you're on those planets.
Are you yearning for it when you're not playing?
No, I wouldn't say I'm yearning for that stuff. That stuff's more just cheap XP between all the other good stuff. So, yeah, some of the planets are quite bare, but I mean, they've already got out and said there's 1,000 planets, and out of those, 100 are, populated and stuff. And that's a lot. When you think about it, that's actually quite a lot of planets and a lot of gameplay stuff that you're going to get. So, with the side quests, as Blue said, some of the side quests I've got already, the amount of to-do lists I've got in that menu already, and it's still only the start of the game. Like, this game's going to go on for ages, and there's no end to the content. And I've got a theory about how New Game Plus is going to work and what the story's going to go. I'm not going to sort of say it here. I'll probably talk to you guys after and see what you think about it. But I'm very excited if I'm correct in how it's all going to work.
Oh, nice. I look forward to hearing that speculation. Have you by chance explored the commercial district? I can't remember the main planet's name, Constellation. No, where the lodge is, whatever that city's called.
Oh, yeah. Atlantis, New Atlantis.
New Atlantis, nailed it. Have you spoken to I can't remember the name of the shop, but in the commercial district, there's like 5 or 6 shops there. Have you gone into all those?
I think I have got into most of them.
Did you get the quest to go and resecure the shopkeeper's data? Someone's hacked into his system and they're blackmailing him, and you've like got to go and get back his tablet with his user data on it.
Oh no, I've done plenty of other side quests for vendors and stuff, but not that one.
That's an epic one. Like, I just love the setup and execution. I wasn't expecting to see like a cybersecurity awareness mission in Starfield, but it was there and it tickled me pink. Bully, did you come across that one, mate?
No, I haven't come across that, but probably not far from there, I've come across another one with a bloke looking at a tree, and then that devolves into.
Oh, that's a long quest, which hasn't finished yet, actually.
No. I think I've got up to a point where some other bloke wants you to hack into something to clear his record because he's about to get in trouble, and I was sort of going, I'm not sure if I want to get into the hacking side of things yet, so I sort of left that alone. But that's probably from where you're talking, Troy, is maybe a 2 or 3 minute walk. And again, it's just funny how things play out that you've missed that, but you've gone to another quest that's probably not that far away, and yet I've missed the one you've seen.
Yeah, well, it was 1 or 2 conversation choices in. He just says one rogue comment, and if you answer it in the correct way, you can push him a little bit. And because he starts speaking about how secure his data is, and you're like, is it really? He's like, well, actually, somebody stole it. It's fantastic. I'm loving my time with this game as with you guys. I'm keen to get back to it. And I want to echo your point from earlier, Unky. The main quest line, I am main questing this all the way. So enjoyable, so varied. And so far, like every hour on the hour, they're giving you a new treat for in-game play. And I'm like, I've just got to keep mainlining it to unlock all these abilities and see what it's got to offer. And then I'm going to go and explore the Walker Texas Rangers. That reminds me, how did you blokes resolve the bank hostage situation?
I managed to persuade them to give themselves up.
Oh, well played. I couldn't get there. How'd you go, Bully?
No, I did the same. I think initially I tried to do the persuade, and then he knocked it back, and then it let me have another go at it, and I managed to get it on the second crack.
Oh, I persuaded and failed, so I went in the back door and shot everyone. Peaceful negotiations. I don't have any final points for Starfield, so if you blokes don't either, shall we move on to game 2?
Yeah, I mean, the sooner we stop talking about it, the sooner I get back to playing it, so let's move on.
Fair enough, Bully. No final points from you on Starfield, mate?
Oh, the only thing I'll just quickly say is that I'm not really keen on that fast travel system and the working your way around the galaxy. As much as I try to give you a tip, I still find it frustrating from time to time. And the only other thing, which is a downside for me, is I think just because it feels really immersion breaking for me, having to jump in your ship, fly somewhere else, do one part of a mission, jump back in your ship, fly to somewhere else to do the next part of the mission. I find it really immersion breaking to the point where, I'd rather just be on a planet. Let me stay on that planet for a couple of hours working through missions and various objectives and stuff. And when I've had my time on that planet, jump back in the ship and move on to the next one. That this constant jumping around to do different objectives within the same mission, as I said, it breaks the immersion. It's really, really frustrating. And that coupled with the navigation system of getting to different systems and planets and all the rest of it, that's the biggest frustration. The parts that I've really enjoyed is when I'm just left alone on a planet just to do something for a while. But as soon as you get out of that, that's rather annoying. So again, I don't know whether it's something that they're potentially looking at in a patch, whether there's others that are feeling that sort of frustration with the navigation system, and whether they're actually going to put the time. I really hope they do, because that's what's stopping me playing it non-stop at the moment is that constant jumping. And if I have to do it too many times in a row, I just go, I've had enough. I switch it off and I go and play something else.
I've certainly heard that complaint echoed across the internet, man. A lot of people are saying exactly what you are. And the one thing I can offer to, just a slight modification to your gameplay, and maybe it won't be as big of a problem, because I was facing that as well, man. But then I doubled down on my scanning the resources and doing more laser cutting mining on the planets. And just that alone, getting into the double bounce with the jetpack and then doing the quick scan around to look for anything that you haven't yet scanned or mined. And if you just do a couple of those, like a little bit off the beaten path on your way to the objectives, for me, that just adds enough filler between the loading screens and it cured the problem. So maybe try and let very much like fishing mini game, try and let the mining mini game get its hooks in you. Maybe that'll help.
Oh, look, yeah. And I certainly have tried doing that. It's just, when you're on a planet for 15, 20 minutes doing a mission, and then another 5 minutes of exploring a little bit, and then it's on your ship, fly somewhere else. I just find it really frustrating, really frustrating playing that sort of way. Whereas I'd like it just to be, as I said, if you dump me on the same planet for 4 or 5 hours with a whole bunch of quests to do, and I didn't have to leave that planet to do them and all the rest of it, then I'd be the same as you, Unky. I'd be sitting there just going, I wouldn't be putting anything else on. I wouldn't be playing anything else. Just let me go. But as I said, it's sort of it's not ruining the experience, but it's making me not really have that, as you said, Unky, the hooks in, and you just want to play it, and you're thinking about it, and wanting to jump back into it straight away.
Yeah, that's fair points. Oh shoot, haven't lost it. Mining minigame. Oh my god, I totally just lost it. There was one other point, but it doesn't matter. Sorry, Bully, I cut you off in the end.
No, I was all done. I think that was just that was my complaints for it, I think. And look, it's not a bad game. I'm enjoying it despite the few bugs and that sort of stuff. There is enjoyment to be had, and hopefully we can work through that and keep bashing away at it.
Fair call, man. I'm looking forward to going hands-on with it. I guess the only real question, fellas, is anyone playing Game 2 instead after the show this evening? Of course, Baldur's Gate 3, Bully. You've been playing it as well?
Well, I've been, and this is probably why it doesn't hurt. So when I get a bit frustrated with Starfield, I've been flicking over to Baldur's Gate on the PS5, and it's a completely different experience, obviously, and just a completely different way to do an RPG. So I think, and it sort of almost makes the glaring issues in Starfield probably stand out a little bit more because of the way that you can go about things and the different choices you can do. It's a lot slower paced than Starfield. It's your traditional RPG game. Obviously it came out about a month ago for the PC and released a couple of days ago for the PS5, I think, and you could get it 4 or 5 days early if you got the digital deluxe edition, which is what I did. It was very hard to get into. I don't know how you found it, Unky or Troy, jumping into it, but that first sort of hour or two where you're just sort of trying to work out the mechanics of things, and it's very, it's based on Dungeons and Dragons, the board game, so it's very dice heavy and roll heavy, and a lot of the combat even is there's a lot of luck element to it. Yes, you can try and spec your characters and put good weapons in and level them up to how you like your gameplay, but there is certain elements of it that will still come down to luck with that doll rice, and that doesn't matter whether you're in combat, whether you're in conversation with people and that sort of stuff. So just getting your head around all that sort of stuff I found pretty difficult the first couple of hours, and it is really hard, the combat I found in that same period of time. And it's not until you start getting some companions and you can work out the actual mechanics of how you move around the battlefield while you're fighting. So you utilizing things which you don't really think of to start with, but if you can get the higher ground, then you've got a better chance of hitting them with ranged attacks and those sort of things. If once you get your head around that, I've really enjoyed playing it, and that slower paced, and it's probably what I'm missing out of Starfield is that real exploration part of it, where you can sort of find a little path, you go off there, and then you start what you think is just going to be a small little path that you find a hidden cave, and in that cave's 3 more side quests and 2 updates to other quests that you've got going on, and then you find some equipment, and then you double back and come back out, and then you'll find something else. Like there's parts and even companions that I'd missed that you, in essence, you could find in the first 5 or 10 minutes once you get out of the tutorial sort of area, that I didn't find until 5-6 hours in. So that's really scratching that itch for me, that exploration part of it. And I know you guys have gone hands-on with the PS5 version as well. Unky, I don't know what your thoughts are on the difference between the PC version and the PS5 version, or whether it is pretty much like for like.
Yeah, it's vastly the same experience. I've been playing obviously on the ROG Ally, so not your full version PC, at all the frames and stuff. So I was playing it probably it's almost a 60 frames per second in handheld mode, then bumping it up on the TV with the Xbox controller, probably running about that 30 frames per second at a reasonably high resolution. So still look pretty good on the TV, but yeah, having it on the PS5 with that performance bump at 60 frames per second, it does sort of create a sort of smoother experience on the TV. Not that it really matters in a game, as you said, that's, not really solely based on, hand-to-hand combat or, twitch reflexes like you would in a Starfield with shooting and stuff like that. So it's more methodical. So the frames don't really matter, but it does create a nice, more smoother experience, especially with the menu navigation. I think they've done a pretty good job to translate all the controls you can onto a controller as best they can with the radial menus.
Nailed that R1, L1 thing.
Yeah, they've really nailed that. It's really easy to understand the way the characters work and move and all that kind of stuff. My only gripe is at the moment, yes, the combat is probably my least favorite aspect of the game. Even playing on the easiest difficulty without a mouse and keyboard, the mouse, and I can understand why computer, it's probably the more superior experience to mouse and keyboard, is because you'd be able to easily select your characters and move them and strategically around the battlefield much easier than it is to use a controller, where I'm sort of playing the game more like a third-person action game where I'm walking around and all my crew's following me, and then we hit combat and all of a sudden I'm positioning. Yep.
The tip from me, man, is hit L3 more often. And if you hit L3, it goes into like mouse cursor mode, and then you can select like, because I was having trouble like opening boxes, or you rescue a goblin early on. And he's like, oh, my backpack's around here somewhere, you know, open it up and you can have what's in it. And I couldn't find it until I hit L3 mode. And then I was able to move the cursor and the screen, highlight the backpack and open it. And once I had that in the full world exploration, that is a huge help in battles as well.
Yeah. Okay, cool. I mean, it's not like, I had no real issues. Like, I had some tough fights, but I was finding that I had a pretty decent party with good abilities and stuff that was sort of pretty well balanced now to fight most things. But I found there's been a massive difficulty spike since hitting right at the end of Act 1, which is sort of the main big sort of area they're in. I've unlocked everything. I've done pretty much all the side quests. So the main thing I need to do now is essentially get myself to Act 2. And
can I ask on that point, is Act 2 like at the end of a bridge? Because I accidentally stumbled onto this bridge really early on, and then it said, make sure you've mopped up before you cross this bridge.
Was that with the dragon?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's one way, but there's a goblin sort of area where there's one of the main quests is to defeat all three of the goblin leaders.
Okay.
Problem you've got there is I took out essentially two of them without sort of alerting anyone, but then the third one I kind of had no other option but to sort of kill him, and I did it really well, actually. He was sitting on a throne, and I just started combat by knocking the throne over, which knocks him on the ground. And then my next move was to position my character near him, and instead of actually attacking him, was to just shove him down a hole.
Yeah, okay.
So before he even had a chance to attack, I've shoved him down. Then I took out the small goblins. There's maybe sort of 10, 15 of them, and once they were done, I could fast travel out of there.
Nice.
Problem I've got now is there's a place for you to go to the Undercroft, which is one of the way they suggest to get you to Act 2, the easiest way. But the problem I've got is because I'm out of that area, every time I come back into that area, I've got to fight, no shit, probably like 40 to 50 goblins that are there because they're automatically aggroed to me. So, and you can't, there's no fast travel inside of this area. So you actually have to fight. And it is like, and there's no way that my group is powered up enough to fight these guys that are above my level and attacking me. Like you might have 15 of them attack you before you even get the chance to attack. You then attack, and then all of a sudden your attack misses for that one chance you get. And I'm like, are you bloody kidding me? So I'm like, oh, well, I'll try the other way. I'll go down this well and go the other way. But there's these spiders that are over leveled and they just kill me every time I try and get through there. And then if you go to the bridge way that you're going, they're like, you're severely underpowered for this area, so don't go this way. I'm like, well, what am I supposed to do? I don't know what to do anymore. So all the enjoyment I was having with this game is kind of just halted this one bit where I feel like I'm stuck, not being able to progress any further, and not due to skill, but it just feels almost unfair with the way it's sort of ramped up its difficulty. And yes, there's probably some more things I could do, whether I could go speak to a lot more of the characters I got back at my camp and maybe put them in my crew, and maybe they've got some side missions I haven't done that it might up my experience to level 5 and I get some more upgrades. But at the moment, because I've been stuck in the Starfield, every time I've tried to jump back into this and try to force my hand through this, whereas in something like Starfield, the combat I could easily brute force my way through some tougher difficulties because I'm used to first person shooting, but for this that's so strategic for the combat, and you got to work out your builds, and there's an element of luck with the D&D stuff, as Bully said, with the dice rolls and all that kind of stuff, and so many mechanics and the ways you can set things up. I'm just like, in my head I'm like, I don't at the moment have the brain capacity to do that right now and take forever to then the amount of times I've done these fights and I've been there for 15, 20 minutes and then just decide, stuff it. I can't. It's going to keep going, and I kill these enemies, think I've moved somewhere, then all of a sudden I'm doing it all again. I'm like, I need some time to sit down and probably respec a whole bunch of stuff and maybe look at some guides about how to do it. I did Google it just to see, and yeah, it does seem to be not a gripe, but like a lot of people have said that, yeah, it does ramp up a bit where all of a sudden you're fighting these levels that well above you and you're only sitting at level 4 yourself for all your characters. So as much enjoyment as I can see how good this game is, like Bully expanded, I think I talked about it the previous week when I was on, like the character interactions, the story, the way they tell it, the branching storylines is just impeccable and done so well that I can't knock it. I know why it's getting 10 out of 10s. I know why it's in the Game of the Year conversation, but yeah, at the moment, just a little bit stuck.
Fair enough, man. You bring up interesting points, though, because I've been reading online that apparently Act 2 is where the game really hits its stride and gets good. And so knowing that if I cross that bridge and I'm into Act 2, I'm part of his tempted like, oh, screw this Act 1. Let's just jump into Act 2 and see how we go.
Yeah, maybe there's some sort of lower level enemies towards the start that I can sort of maybe grind on or something. I'm tempted to maybe just do it and just see what happens. But because at the moment, I can't see myself getting through this goblin camp, which is annoying because the fact that I've already been to the Undercroft and I'm thinking maybe if I just pushed a little bit further in the Undercroft the first time, there may have been a fast travel point under there, which there probably would have been. And now I can't get there.
And can you see on screen here, man, have you solved many of these puzzles? They're like the Merlin challenges from
Yeah, I've
Hogwarts.
solved a few of those. I felt really bad. I killed the owlbear and his cub.
Oh, I was going to ask you about that. I killed the bear, and that's to your earlier point, Bully, where I learned about taking the high ground and then all your shots have a way higher percentage chance. It was killing that owl that taught me. But I felt so bad when its cub comes up and cries at its dead mother's feet that I had
evil man.
Scum. No, I rolled it back. I went, no, I'm not killing this owl. I went back a save and just walked in and then walked away, left it unscathed. I couldn't live with myself.
Well, if you've got one of your characters that can talk to animals, you can actually recruit it back to your camp. So,
I didn't know that. I've got a potion to speak to animals, but I didn't know when to pop it. I'll go back to the cave and do it.
Yeah, so if you got that, you come across a dog, a dog that you can recruit as well. That's master's dead, and you can recruit him back to things. So you can recruit a whole bunch of animals and characters back to your camp, which is quite cool.
There's actually one of the characters has got a spell that you can use instead of using a potion. He's actually got a spell that you can just cast, and it gives you 10 minutes or something of talking to animals.
Yeah, okay, that's great. And I was disappointed that they didn't go with our suggestion of the gyroscope dice roll for the PS5 controller. Every time it comes up on screen, I'm like, man, they've missed an opportunity here. And how are you finding it, Bully? Are the dice rolls going your way, sir?
Well, it's funny. It's one of those things that it depends where I'm at and what I'm doing and what the conversation is. There's quite often I'll just go, okay, I'll fold it, I'll let it slide, I'll just wear the consequences of it and move on. And there's other times that I'll sort of go, nah, there's no way. I'm reloading saves and yeah, okay, no, I didn't get the dice roll again. Reload until I get what I want.
Oh, really? I haven't gone that hard at the reload. The only one I've done so far is the owl.
No. I've sort of done it with a few things where you sort of go, no, I really want to get over there, and the only way I can do this without fighting 10 people at once is to get the persuasion through. So I sort of go, well, some people might look at it and go, that's not the right way to play, but, I enjoy doing that way because I know then I can get to that next bit and then enjoy that next area that I'm in.
Yeah, yep. How do you like my the look of my character, Unky? You'd be shocked to know I went with their default pre-build and just went, yep, that'll do. Let's get me into the game.
That's okay.
No time in the character creator.
That's okay. Some people say that's the way to play the game. Like I know people with their other games, Divinity and Original Sin 2, that a lot of people said, yeah, well, I mean, they create a good backstory for the character. Why not pick him and, let them have that? So, no, nothing against that. I mean, he's no Nathan Drake, but that's all right.
But look at him. He's a thing of beauty. Are you happy with your creation, Bully? What build have you gone with?
No. I just used one of the pre-builds, so I went with the vampire. As my main.
I was tempted to go vampire, but then I was put off by, was it Skyrim, I think, that had the negative perk for vampires in daylight, and that's put me off vampires.
Well, it's funny because there's one, this is probably not giving too much away, but he does have an ability to bite enemies to refill health. So,
nice.
But the first time you use it, if you have a party with you, the first time you do it in front of a party, they're all shocked and can't believe what you've just done. I can't believe that you're a vampire and you didn't tell them, and it's a whole other thing by using it. So I've sort of
so you bit all those crew, and now who are you flying?
Well, it's funny you say that because you can actually, when you go to your camp and you rest, there is you wake up in the middle of the night while they're all sleeping, and it gives you the option. It goes, you need to feed. So it gives you the option to either
Nice.
feed on your party or go and find an animal or something to feed on. So you can actually start chewing on them in the middle of the night.
And you called me a monster for killing the owl, Mum.
I went and found an animal and ate that.
So how long, Bully? How long is that going to last you?
Probably not very long.
You'll be chewing on your mates in no time.
Oh, probably not long, because I'm interested to see where it goes if you do start chewing on it.
Yeah, that'd be great to know. I'm only 5 hours in, Bully. How deep in are you, mate?
Oh, probably about 10 or 12.
Yep. And highlights so far?
For me, it's the exploration, as I said before. That for me is the highlight of it. It's just moving around the world, working out different things. You know, as you're wandering around, you have your perception that can identify different things or traps, and you know, you can find different. Just wandering down a path, very much in the Starfield mold. You can just be wandering down a path and come across someone, and there might be a conflict on the side of the road or something, and on face value, you sort of look at it and go, no, I'll side with that person. But then when you get further into the conversation piece, you go, oh, gee, I've made the wrong decision here. That the person I've backed is the wrong person, but you don't see that to start with. So a lot of that, just that mystery of how things, or not knowing and not being able to foresee how things are going to play out is probably the highlight for me, I would have thought.
Nice one. Can I suggest, man, on the exploration front, what I've noticed with playing Starfield and Baldur's Gate simultaneously is that I really enjoy the fog of war on the mini map in Baldur's Gate 3, and then I notice it's absent in Starfield. Like anytime you pop your visor up, you already know where the anomalies are. Do you think they could introduce that sense of wonder if instead of automatically having those points plotted, you needed to do something game mechanic wise, either approaching the planet or landing on the planet to reveal those points? Would it be something as small as that would make it a bit more interesting and give you more a sense of exploration?
Oh, look, to be honest, probably not. Like I think a game the size of Starfield, it really does need quest markers, and I know some people hate them, but I think in a game that size it needs it. Baldur's Gate probably doesn't, because there's a lot of things going on in the world, but there's not, and it does have some quest markers. It gives you a general area to go, but it doesn't come up on the screen. It just shows you on the map.
Yep.
When you jump into the main map, sort of the rough area that you need to go, and not exactly where you need to go like it does in Starfield. But I don't think you can do away with that in Starfield. Otherwise, you could find yourself, what was this quest? I had to go to this planet. Then you land on this planet, and you could be wandering around for hours. And and this is probably a bit hypocritical in the comment, is that as much as I miss that exploration and the wonder of some of the other Bethesda games, is I also don't want to just be wandering around aimlessly, because let's be honest, some of those planets are pretty barren. There's not a lot to them.
Yeah.
You don't want to just be wandering around for 2 or 3 hours trying to find some item that you've got to pick up, or a person that's hiding behind a tree that you can't see or whatever. So I think Starfield really needs it, but Baldur's Gate has it to a minor degree, just that it's a general area on your main map, but and the world's not as big, so it's not as much of a requirement, I don't think. And there's a lot more going on in the world in Baldur's Gate, in my opinion. There's a lot more of the world that you can actually interact with and do things differently and approach things a bit differently. You can do a degree in Starfield to some point, but I think it's just a bit more open-ended in Baldur's Gate. That's just my opinion, and you guys might have a different view.
You're right, mate. On screen now is a great example. Have you guys come across this random NPC? Because this has been my highlight, this side quest that I haven't really engaged with, because you get the option to engage with. But have you guys met this guy on screen? Have you seen him before? Do you know the twist that's about to happen?
It looks vaguely familiar, but I can't. This might have been one of the ones that I go, no, I don't want to do this at the moment, and backed out of it.
Unky, do you know the reveal that we're about to see here?
I don't think so.
This is amazing. So the main sort of thrust of the story is you've got these eye parasite worm things,
Mhm.
This guy here randomly came across him. He's the devil, and he's offering
Oh, no, I
yes,
have.
gold.
yes,
It's
yes.
great.
Sorry, yeah, I
I
came across him in a completely different area. That's all.
I didn't suspect this at all. I thought this was such an unexpected, fantastic twist. I'm like, bang, this is already amazing. Like, just out of nowhere, just such an interesting, tiny little story thread, but so well delivered. This is my favorite bit of the whole game so far. As I said, I'm only 5 hours in, but absolutely loving my time with it. I cannot decide which game I'm enjoying more, Starfield or Baldur's Gate 3. Unky, do you have a clear winner at this stage? Or?
Well, only because I can keep playing it and I'm not stuck Starfield at the moment. So, and I said, like, you guys obviously like real fresh in the balls. I've been playing it for the last sort of few weeks as well. So the gloss has worn off a little bit more than what it would be for you guys that have just started playing it. So,
yeah.
Whereas the gloss of Starfield's really got me in now. So I do jump back to it, but it's just very hard to jump back to a game where I'm fully stuck. Whereas Starfield, I can find myself enjoying instantaneously and know what I'm doing and all that stuff. So for me, it's Starfield at the moment.
Fair enough. How about you, Bully?
I don't think I've got a favourite as such, but I think in terms of, being a big RPG fan, I think the pros and cons of each game really work with each other, if that makes sense. So the great things in Baldur's Gate are probably the things that are lacking in Starfield and vice versa. So the fact that you can play one for one night, put 4 or 5 hours into it and sort of go, and then the next day you go over to Starfield, I think that's probably getting me through some of those annoyances in Starfield a little bit, is that I can just go, okay, I'm going to put it down, but I've got this other fantastic RPG that really fills the holes that Starfield's lacking. So for me, just being able to work through both of them, sort of simultaneously, or whichever one sort of strikes you at any particular moment that you've got to be able to sit down and play, I think it is probably weird because I've never had that, 2 games releasing in a very short space of time that have been able to do that, whereas these can.
Yeah, very complimentary games. They're great points. So let me ask you it this way, Billy. Once we go off air tonight, which game are you booting up?
I was sort of halfway through doing something in Starfield, so I'll probably be back at Starfield. But now I'm watching some of this footage going, oh, no, hang on, mate. Oh, maybe I'll go to Baldur's Gate.
Well, can I just suggest that if we do ever want to get off air, we're probably going to have to move on because it's already it's nearly 9:30. We've only spent on 2 games. So
sorry, mate. Fair call. Sorry, the last thing I wanted to say is to Bully. Bully, I've found the world interaction mechanics and the NPC so much like The Witcher 3. So often I'm playing this and I'm enjoying it the same way I did The Witcher 3. Has it struck you in that chord at all?
To some degree, yeah. To some degree, probably not with the massive scale and that obviously The Witcher has, but certainly to some degree, I could see some massive similarities.
I'll quickly point out
in the world design.
Just what I just saw on the screen then, I'm not sure if you went into your menu to jump over that bridge, hit up on the D-pad to be able to jump automatically.
Oh, pro tip. Thank you, Unky. I appreciate it.
Good.
All right, guys, let's move on. Game 3 this week, and I'll speed it up. Sorry, Unky, I have been dragging my heels. This is Armored Core 6. I picked it up for Father's Day. Latest release from FromSoft, one of my all-time favorite studios. This, as you were just saying about Baldur's Gate and Starfield being very complimentary, Bully, I got to say, Armored Core 6 is the perfect palate cleanser from an RPG. You boot it up, you select your mech loadout, or Transformers in my mind. I'm just playing Transformers. You select your build out, you do a mission, and it takes what, Unky? 5-6 minutes to do a mission? And then bang, you're off.
Yep.
Are you loving it, man? I'm absolutely loving it. It's Transformers in my hand. I love the way it plays. I love the way it feels. I love the upgrade options. I love the short mission structure. I love everything about it, mate. Your thoughts?
Yeah, it's a great palette cleanser. Like it's not really your RPG. You go in there, you can change your mech, you get plenty of money, you can replay the 5-minute missions to get more cash, to get more stuff. You try a different loadout. If that doesn't work, you quickly jump in there. Like at any checkpoint, if you've died, you come back, you can rejig your mech to how you want it. I've got a pretty decent mech that's got me through now most things with my loadout, and it's got me through a lot of bosses. I've unlocked a lot of the challenge room stuff. I'm trying to remember what it's called, where you just go in and fight like the rank level. So start, I think it's F, then you go down. I think
Yeah, I know what you're saying, but I can't draw the name. Sorry.
Yeah, so like I've done every time I get them, I just go through and do all of them. So I've beaten all those, about probably 15 of them at the moment, which is unlocking your permanent unlocks that you get for the game, the OS upgrades that you get for your mech. So upgrading all my melee, all my rocket stuff, because you got to stagger enemies, and then once you stagger them, you can create even bigger damage on them, and that's where my melee comes in. But I think a lot of people may fall off this game early if you play the game and the first tutorial boss is kicking a lot of people's asses because.
Oh yeah, that one staggered me big time until you came in with the pro tips. That's the only thing that got me over the line.
Yeah, meleeing him really does help with that one. The problem with that one, I don't think you can actually adjust or change your mech until after you beat that boss. It's kind of like other FromSoft games where you can't really upgrade your character until you fought that first boss.
Yep.
This one you actually have to beat him. So I could see that happening. There's another big sort of skill gap tester that comes up after that. The Baltius is another big boss, which that took me quite a while. I came home one night late from work and had a crack at him and finally beat him.
At the end of this footage, I've got the video of the boss I'm stuck on. I'm dying to know over Tim, and then I'm going to pull some pro tips from on screen. Sorry, back to you.
That's right. Yeah, I'm probably right at the end of chapter 3 now, so I've progressed quite a fair bit. I've got heaps of bosses, heaps of mini bosses, and there's been some frustrations, but they're no more frustrating than your normal FromSoft. You still get that massive gratification, like I'm swearing at my TV, calling these bosses all kinds of names, and then when you get them, you do that, sit down, brother, I've got you, and like it's just so exhilarating. And when you take them out in that slow, usually it's me finishing off with a melee attack, and it goes in slow motion, they explode. You do the slow walk away from the camera as the thing goes up, take a fancy screenshot.
Yeah,
it's exhilarating stuff. It's such a good game to play apart from all those other games. The big RPGs, you can just jump in for 5 minutes, have a go, and hopefully you're not hitting the boss at the end of some of these levels because they can be a little bit longer and they don't save those checkpoints. If you don't finish that then and there, and you want to go to a different game and come back, you sort of start that level again. Yep. And sometimes that can be a little frustrating because you might fight a mini boss to get up to that boss, and sometimes those mini bosses can actually be harder than the big bosses.
Yep.
Because they're mechs and they're flying around just as fast as you are, and you get the big guy and he might be a bit easier. But no, I'm loving my time with this game. It's probably in terms of performance, the best running FromSoft game. It runs flawlessly at 60 frames per second with all the stuff going on and explosions. A bit simpler looking game, but no, I'm loving it. As you said, Transformers, I've literally coloured my guy and it looks exactly like Optimus Prime. So
nice. Once again, I'm waiting for the option to download other people's skins so somebody else can spend the time to build him properly and then I can just download him. That'll be amazing.
Well, they do have preset coloured options you can for all your stuff. So they've got ones in there that do look like Master Chief and Iron Man and all that kind of stuff. You can go in and pick if you like. But it doesn't take much. I enjoyed going in there and making my own one.
Yeah, nice, man. And I have found so much of the movement in this game reminds me of Returnal. Have you found the same thing?
Yeah, I definitely have. Obviously, at the start more so because I wasn't loaded up with a lot more of the heavy stuff. So the Sentinel stuff I've got on my left and right shoulder, which does massive rocket damage, which is perfect. Yep. Requires a slightly heavier mech, so I'm a little bit heavier than what I was at the start of the game, which takes away some of that movement, but I would never give up to these weapons that I've got for a little bit more movement. But you're right, it's like you're left, down, up, like attacks come from everywhere. Like you kind of almost have to train your brain to remember to go up sometimes as opposed to sitting on the ground. And when you do, that's when the combat opens up and you really realize that it's probably not as hard as you're making it out to be for yourself, because as soon as you hit the ground and start hitting those rockets from up, down to low, that's when the game changes and you sort of realize, okay, no, I'm actually using the game's mechanics how it's meant to be used.
Yeah, that first boss really taught me that, because I just ended up that tutorial boss launching into him and doing the melee attack and then getting out, spinning around, doing the same thing, going down. And that from that point on, I'm like, always go up and come down on him. It's way more effective.
Absolutely. And as some mechs will be, they get the ability to jump up really high, or you can hover. They have really good tutorials for each of the mechs, and they give you a chance to sort of try them all out, and you'll unlock sort of different kinds of mechs that you can do that with, and you can experiment. And I think that's what this game wants you to do. That wants you to experiment with build types, and if you are struggling, then do change it up. Like sometimes I've been trying to fight a boss exactly like I fought another boss, and it's just not working. All it takes is to change one weapon or one sort of thing to make yourself be able to move either more or move less but hit harder, and then you take that boss. So it's just a matter of not being stuck in your ways.
Yeah, and sorry, just to jump on your earlier point, man, you may have already said this, and I apologize if I'm repeating yourself, but mid-mission, when you do get that checkpoint, even if you've passed the mini-boss, you're on the end boss, and you're just redoing the end boss, if you don't leave, you can still go into your mech and customize it, switch out the parts you've already purchased. You can't purchase new parts, but you can just, I'm stuck on this boss, hold on a second, let me pull up my rig, let me switch out a few things and give it another crack. And I've found it so rewarding and enjoyable. It's fantastic.
Yeah, and the good thing, they don't punish you either. Like some other FromSoft games might punish you for that, but this year, you're not losing anything by dying. And you, in fact, it actually goes in your advantage sometimes. If you can get to a checkpoint with no heals left, but then die to the boss, every time you respawn, you're not starting back with that same amount of health like a real checkpoint. They give you all your 3 health files back. So, and especially if you've unlocked the ability to sort of, heal more, or there's an ability like a last minute thing where, like, if you go down to 0 health, then you get a shield and you got that one last chance to take out the boss. Which, the amount of times we've been playing these FromSoft games, you got him down to just that tiny little bit of health left, and you go down. This time it gives you that chance to have that one more crack at him, which I really enjoy. So a lot of good permanent upgrades, and I've heard New Game Plus for this game is quite cool as well.
Epic, man. And here is he's not the boss battle I'm stuck on, but this is the coolest looking boss battle I've fought in the game. And you'll see it here. I've cut the middle of the boss fight out, but you see the intro bit here and then the end. And very much to your earlier point, man, you kill the last laser thing on his head, and then it's like, get clear, and you jump clear, and then it does the big cinematic come around. You're looking cool skiing across the desert as he blows up in the background. This game looks phenomenal. It runs phenomenal. I haven't had one performance hitch. I haven't had one bug. Anything on your side there, Unky?
Nah, flawless experience. Like, I think it's hitting even 120 frames as well on my
that's epic.
monitor as well. So, and that doesn't drop a frame. As I said, it looks smooth as. And for a game that's a bit simpler looking compared to all the other games, I still think it looks incredible. Some of the vistas, some of the robots, the combat encounters they've created, I just think are just so well done. It's so different from what they've done, but it still definitely has that FromSoft DNA, which I think it's bringing mech combat, to the forefront in a genre that I would probably not normally play, but the fact that it's got that FromSoft flavor and stuff in it, I'm loving it.
The gameplay is superb. It's top notch, moment to moment gameplay. Luke.
And even like we've been talking about, Starfield and Baldur's Gate, I'm watching this now, going, I really need to get back to Armored Core now.
Yeah, it's so good. And the other thing I want to say about this is this reminded me so much of Shadow of the Colossus. This particular boss fight, I'm like, oh my God, remake Shadow of the Colossus, but in Armored Core 6. Just give me, what are they, 12 world bosses or 16 in Shadow of the Colossus? I'm like, just give me those exact bottles. Don't even change the mechanics on it. Just give me my mech instead of, what's his name, Echo or whatever, with the sword and the horse. Let me do it with my mech. But the sense of scale in this game is phenomenal because your mech feels massive most of the time. And then you get to a boss like this and you feel like an ant. The way they play visually with the scale of this game is phenomenal. I absolutely love the colors of it. Bully, is this calling you back to the old 360 brown look, man, this level?
It does a little bit. I don't know. It's, I love the From Software games, but I'm not sure that I've never really been a mech fan. And even seeing the footage and you guys talking about it, how good it is, it still doesn't. It's not really something that's dragging me in, to be honest.
Have you ever loved a Transformers game, mate?
No.
Oh, okay. My mistake.
Forget about it.
I thought you had a history of enjoying the Transformers games, man. I was going to say this would be right up your alley, but no.
I've never found a decent Transformers game.
Well, Core 6 is it.
The Cybertron games, Bully, that's where it's at. Those Transformers games are fantastic.
But here it is here, just before we jump off this game. So, Unky, any final thoughts? But I'll just point out that the vision you're seeing on screen now, here's me killing the final weapon on that end boss, and you're about to see the big cinematic outro. Unky, final points.
Final points. There's not much more to say, really. We said it when the previews were out that this looks more like Returnal for us, and we're still getting that vibe, which is why I'm really vibing with this game. And as I said, I mean, if it doesn't speak to you, it doesn't speak to you. If you're not a FromSoft game fan, you may not like it because there is definitely that difficulty. But I think it is maybe one of the more user-friendly experiences. The fact that smaller levels 100%. Are jump in, jump out. It's and as we said throughout the whole sort of review of the game, like if you're not, doing well with one mech, change it up.
Yeah, absolutely. Full points to this game. I'm only, 3.5 hours in, I think, to Armored Core 6. As I said, I've been playing it between Starfield and Baldur's Gate 3, but this, from a gameplay standpoint, is no question in Game of the Year conversation for the way the minute-to-minute gameplay is. This is silky smooth robot action at its absolute finest.
It's just cool. Like, it's just a cool game between like the Metal Gear Solid style story delivery and 161 go to this. It's like there's no people in me. Always see mechs. It's just it's just a cool game.
The only thing I'm jealous on now, Unky, is knowing that you're playing this at 120 frames a second, man, because I can't imagine how buttery smooth that would look. But I'm playing it at 60 and absolutely loving my time with it. This game is epic. Bully, I say check it out, man. I really think it'll make a believer out of you.
Well, I think this is one of the ones that if I do end up doing it, it's going to have to be on sale down the track in a couple of months because
fair call.
And the last two games we spoke about are going to take up a fair bit of time, and then on top of that, we've got a hell of a lot coming out over the next couple of months.
That we do. And Unky, you've been hands-on with a recent release as well. Immortals of Aveum, is it not?
Immortals of Aveum. Yeah, it was one I was umming and ahhing about for a little bit. I've seen some reviews. It looked like it was swimming in sevens and stuff. Nothing wrong with a good 7 game. But no, I've really enjoyed it. It's got a really cool story. It's made by ex-Call of Duty developers. So, like, yes, it's magic, but it kind of just plays like a shooter. You've got 3 types of magic. You've got your blue, green, and red. Your green's kind of like your machine gun, or submachine gun. You've got your blue, which is like a pistol or rifle style, and then you've got your red, which is more your either grenade launcher or shotgun style magic. You can pull up a shield. You've got different kind. You've got like a whippy thing that like you can use to sort of drag people towards you because every game needs one of those these days, and it's used to sort of solve puzzles and stuff as well. And a really likable cast of characters. It feels very Avengers-y in the way it's presented. It's got epic music. It's got one of the best sort of opening sort of menu music, and that same kind of music sort of permeates throughout all the levels as well. And it just makes it feel epic the whole time. It's got cool boss fights against giant dragons, which, they might be a little bit bullet spongy, but the whole game looks really cool. It's running in Unreal Engine 5. Can look a little bit muddy sometimes with a whole bunch of stuff going on screen and clearly dropping some of that resolution to, fit up to keep yourself at the 60 frames per second. But with all the stuff that's going on the screen at any given time, you sort of don't really realize it a whole bunch. No, I'm really enjoying it. It's got Jessica from Suits in it. I can't remember the actress's name, but she pulls off a very good performance. This is one of the sort of main guys that recruits you to the army against this other force. And there's sort of, there's obviously character arcs that I won't spoil, but the way they sort of work in with the main big bad, but then he's got sort of motivations that you're like, okay, maybe he's the good guy. I don't know. There's a history between him and Jessica from Suits that you don't really know about that I'm exploring now. But no, if you like first-person shooters and you sort of like sort of your magic-y stuff, then this is literally the perfect balance of that.
It looks to me very Ghostwire Tokyo in its combat, man. Can you speak to that at all?
I find Ghostwire was pretty slow and methodical with the way its mechanics worked. Yeah, it picked up a little bit, but this is really, really fast-paced. They throw a lot of enemies at you at any given time, and that could maybe be seen as a bit of a negative sometimes because there's a lot happening, and Troy, it's probably not the best game for you because in terms of what you have to do on the controller sometimes with your hands,
you need to be precise.
Not so much precise. It's more so the combinations of buttons you have to do to cast some of these spells because of how much you can do apart from just shooting as well. So you're holding down, your L2 or R1, and then your face buttons are all tied to different maneuvers and stuff. And then, you got to hit your D-pad to change your kind of magic that you're shooting. And the only way to cycle through the different color magic is to hit triangle. There's no radial menu. So if you want to, say you're on green, but you want to get to red, you got to click through blue first to get to it. And if you miss, then you sort of doing it. So you do learn it, but it is a little bit cumbersome on the hands to sort of do that, especially when they're throwing the amount of enemies they are at you. And some of those enemies can also be color-coded as well. So obviously, if you see a red enemy on the screen there that's coming at you, your red magic's going to do more damage, green and blue, vice versa.
Yeah.
So you sort of are sort of trying to do your best to sort of manage all that at once with everything on the screen, plus your hands trying to do it. So yes, you can damage a blue enemy with red, but it's not going to be anywhere near as good as doing it with the right color.
Yeah.
It's got upgrade skills, like you find different like rings to put on your fingers to give you more power. I don't find that does a whole bunch really, apart from bumping numbers up a little bit.
Does your bracelet talk to you?
No, it doesn't.
Thank God we're past that
No,
phase.
there's this. It's actually really cool. Like you pop up this little sort of medallion-y thing, and you'll see the characters talking to in sort of kind of like Dead Space style, where they'll be on this. You'll see a little head giving you, juxtaposition about what you're doing and little story elements, and talking to you almost like a magic mobile phone on video call. So it's actually really well done. But
Okay.
as I said, it's the comedy in it's good. I've laughed out loud quite a few times. It does have a bit of that like Joss Whedon Avengers style dialogue where they kind of he's behind me, isn't he? That kind of stuff.
Yeah,
but
right.
it's done well. It's not
Okay.
really cringy. Like it actually has made me laugh, and it actually has made me endear me to some of these characters.
Yeah, right.
But no, I'll have to get back to it. Again, I got it just before I got Armored Core, and then obviously just before Starfield and Baldur's Gate as well. So it's kind of been on the hiatus at the moment. But definitely enjoyable. Yeah, I'll probably give it around that seven mark as well. But maybe wait for a sale and pick this one up. But it's definitely one of those ones you can easily just pick up and play. There's, it's pretty linear for a wide open area game. It's got open areas as opposed to open world. But no, enjoyable game.
How's it? Have you looked just back to the controls comments? Is there an alternate control scheme, or is there accessibility settings that can back it off? Like in Returnal, in Freya, spells. Forspoken, thank you. In Forspoken, they had an accessibility option that was like auto cycle to the most powerful magic or something. Is there anything like that in this?
Nothing that I've seen. I haven't really dug into it too deeply. I don't, from memory, when I went in there and had a quick look, remember seeing anything that wouldn't be any different to what it already is. Like the amount of stuff on the control, I think they're doing their best with what they've got. It's just the game has so many different combat things you can do. I just don't know how else you do on the controller. Maybe using the back paddles, if you've got it on Xbox, or even if you've got, like I say, even if you've got, I do have the DualSense Edge. So I probably could get the paddles out and maybe re-key some stuff. But even for me, I find the paddles so much, like as much as I want to like them and use them, I've been playing games so long, just the regular way, that it's so hard to train myself to use the paddles as much as they probably make my life easier.
You just need some arthritis in your fingers, mate. You'll learn pretty quick then.
Well, if I keep playing this game, I'll get that. So maybe I'll do that.
Very good. My final question, man. As far as the main story, the narrative goes, is it interesting? Is it compelling? Are you interested in this world and lore?
No, I definitely am, and the way they tell the story is really well done. Like it's, there's cutscenes that you and there's ones that'll play out while you're walking through the levels and stuff. They really create a cool sort of mystery about this main other big bad, and the lead up to you becoming this soldier is actually really well done and really well heartfelt with his family that you go through. So they'd set it up a little bit. It doesn't take too long in the tutorial stages, but no, it's totally a really good click at the moment. And from what I've heard, it's between a 15 to 18 hour game, which is a good size game for a single player campaign like this. So
nice.
But also not too long. If you put through a couple of sessions, you can knock it off in maybe a weekend or two. So no, I'll get back to it. I'm definitely going to finish it. So
yeah, it's on my radar. I'd love to check it out, but I do take your word of warning about the control type. So I'll wait for an alternate control or accessibilities. Or
there you go. There's your magical mobile phone. It's just up on the screen.
Very good. Bully, anything from your side on this one, mate?
No, happy to kick it along.
All right, then let's do exactly that. And it's over to you, Bully, for some Shredder's Revenge DLC, mate. What can you tell us?
Yeah, I'll just be quick with this one. It's dropped a couple of days before Starfield, or I think, the day of Starfield, I think it was released in Australia, which was disappointing. I was hoping to get stuck into it the day before. I got distracted with everything else, but nevertheless, just a couple of different modes, different characters that are in the game there. So you've got, I'll have to lean on Unky how to pronounce these two, but you've got the rabbit character, and then you've got the ninja type character.
I believe it's Jazz Jackrabbit.
I wish it was Jazz Jackrabbit. So you got the two of those, and then there's another game mode put in there, which is survival. So it's basically you dropped in, instead of a side-scrolling moving through a level, it's just one frame, essentially, that you work around. You get thrown a heap of enemies, and then you've got to collect crystals from defeating the enemies, and using those crystals, that sort of unlocks the next stage in the survival part. There's some good twist to it as well. So at the end of each area, when you've defeated the enemies, you get one of two choices as to a power up or something like that, or you can opt for bonus crystals.
Mm-hmm.
But a couple of the good ones on there, so you can actually play as Rocksteady, Bebop, and Shredder are the three that I've played as so far. That your character gets transformed into one of them, and you can. It almost gives you an extra life in there, because once the health is gone from that character, you default back to your whichever character you were using to play the original part in survival anyway. But they're really overpowered as well, so they're fantastic to players, and just really different way of playing it as well. They're not as quick and agile across the screen, but more powerful because of it. So really, really enjoying it just as a different way to play it. Having played, I think at this stage, I've gone through the campaign on Xbox, PS5, and PS4. That's
Nice.
that's how much I've enjoyed the game, and to have something else to play is fantastic.
That's great, man. And have they added any extra levels to that campaign mode in this DLC, or is it just the other game mode?
No, it's just the other game mode, so the survival. But it does have like online global leaderboards and stuff like that. So
how you ranking?
I think I started off, I was about 1,000 when I started playing it, but I think that's dropped well off the mark with some of the scores I'm seeing some people get is outrageous. So,
Unky, have you been putting some time in?
Yeah, I have. But mainly because I had issues with my Starfield install, where it decided to delete all my pre-install. The game had to reinstall the whole 100 gig that day. So I spent about 5 hours playing this game on Friday last week. So I loved it. I got to this sort of end boss the first time of Super Shredder and lost to him. So I almost got all the crystals on one of my runs. But I love it. It's like a roguelite version of this game. Like you go through, they change up each level each time you go through it. So you sort of play in different parts each time. Eventually you'll unlock the ability to be able to sort of start up at the higher levels of combat, which from what I've found, this version of the game's made me better at the main campaign, because they just throw so many enemies and stuff at you. And yeah, as Bully said, using people off Rocksteady, being able to hold down the attack button, and they can use guns and shoot multiple enemies at once. Like it's a really fun time. I've really been enjoying it. They unlock new versions of the characters and skins. Like, so you got like darker colored turtles and black and white turtles. So they look like the nest turtles with the greeny sort of color they can come in at. Oh, it's really cool.
That's fantastic. And I love the art style of that last level where you were fighting on what looked like a comic book page, but you and the characters looked like a video game. That was great.
And I have to say, it came at the perfect time, because I did go and see the new Mutant Mayhem movie on the weekend, which was absolutely phenomenal.
And did that inspire any additional purchases to the shelf, mate?
Maybe a $380 Leonardo.
Dear Lord.
Holy moly, whale and a half. Speaking of whales, what did this DLC set us back?
$12, 11. Oh, so, yeah, I thought it was $11.95, but
and value for money, would you say? Is it immediate purchase worth it?
Yeah.
Oh, 100%.
Okay. Any final points then, or should we continue on our way?
Carry on.
All right, then. Game 6 this evening. It's me playing some Poker Club. It's of note that for this week, I think it finishes maybe tomorrow night or Saturday night. Poker Club, the game is on sale. I think it's like 65% off or something. It's sitting at about $12 or $15 or something, Billy.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, I'm gonna have to pull you up on this. I'm not sure that you're playing Poker Club. You sit there.
Look, it's on screen now.
You sit there spamming match bet. You never look at your cards. You get no idea what's going on. You just hope for the best. I'm not sure you're actually playing poker.
I think that's a totally legit way to play poker.
Bully.
If I don't look at my cards and no one else does, we all have the same odds.
Bully, I'm pretty sure I've watched professional poker on Foxtel before. I've seen people play like that.
There you go,
well,
Bully.
how did it go in that? How did it go in that online game that we were playing on the other night, Troy? I think
my XP was through the roof. Check it out. I'm level 13 already, but I've been playing a couple of hours.
Your XP might have been through the roof, but the amount of chips sitting in front of me was through the roof.
Oh, I was bleeding chips, no question.
I was having you on, Bully. I've never seen anyone play like that before.
No.
It's ludicrous.
It wouldn't last very long if they did, as Troy can attest to.
That I can. But 2 massive thumbs up for me for the price point of around $15 if you get onto it this week. I think this is the best poker game I've ever played. Like, the implementation's flawless. It runs well. It moves where it has to. It's got great implementation for shortcuts and moving through. I absolutely loved it. Bully, your thoughts?
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I think I'm not sure I'd be sitting there playing it, solo. Even though you're on a table with other real world players, I'm not sure that playing it solo, not really knowing anyone, would be the go. I think I enjoyed that when it was the two of us and there was a bit of banter going back and forth. Maybe if someone wanted to jump on that actually knows how to play poker, that would make it a bit more enjoyable. I don't know.
I had a great time, mate. I'm not sure why you weren't enjoying it.
I was enjoying it. I'll just sit there going, you, the whole part of poker is it's you don't just play when you've got a good hand. It's about bluffing people and how you're betting and all the rest of it. And it just flies out the window because I can't. I've bluffed everyone else off the table and taken the pot, and you're still sitting there matching my bets, and I'm going, well, I'm actually holding no good cards here.
Called his bluff every time, ladies and gentlemen. All right, well, as Bully did on the night after a few rounds of poker, he said, no, Troy, we have to move on. And we moved on to Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Bully, what can you tell us?
Dropped onto Game Pass a couple of weeks ago, so it's that team-based sort of hunting and victim style game that we've seen with Dead by Daylight, and I can't recall the other one. There was another one that came out.
Yeah,
Friday
there sure
the 13th.
was. Yes.
So very similar to that. I've quite enjoyed it. It's similar sort of thing. So you play as a family. You're basically on a farm lot with a basement and all that sort of stuff. If you're the victims, you've got to creep around, find some tools, and make your way to escape. I don't really find that part of it enjoyable as much, only because, and it might work better if you're in a team, but playing it by yourself, where it's sort of every man for himself, doesn't really. I don't think that's really how the game was designed to be played. It should be played as a team. So if I go and pick up a particular item that's going to open a door or a gate, then Troy, you would go off and pick up something else, and Unky, you'd go and pick off something else, and then we'd all meet at one point and use all those tools we've got to get ourselves out. But from what I've seen, no one online is really playing it that way. So probably the best way to play it if you're just jumping into it by yourself without a group is as the family, and you can. I think that's where it really shines. Is you're hunting around. Each of the different family characters have got different ways of moving around. So I was playing as Leatherface with his chainsaw, and he's really big and bulky and slow, and can't get through a lot of the smaller gaps. But if you do catch someone, you make some fairly short work of them. There's other characters that you can play as that don't do as much damage, but they can move around a lot quicker and keep up with the victims as they're chasing around. If you're into that sort of thing, the other two games I had a little bit of a go at, but wasn't massive into. But I'm quite enjoying this. I've probably since it's come out, probably now 3 weeks ago, once or twice a week, I'll jump in for an hour just to have a bit of a play around, and that is probably enough for me. But just my recommendation is if you're going to play it in a group of players that you do know, so that you can sort of coordinate what you're doing and get the most out of it.
Yeah, I agree completely, man. I had a blast on there playing with you, but the horror really was up too high for me. I don't think I'll be going back to this one just for the gore factor. Was a bit more than I could handle, but the gameplay under the hood, mate, was very enjoyable. And as you said, being on comms with you and being able to sort of, between the two of us, we're able to cut down. Was it 2 of them in the end, I think we got?
Yeah.
So, but if you can get the teamwork thing happening, very enjoyable game if you can stomach the gore. Unky, any questions? Have you touched this one at all, man?
Haven't touched it. It's one of those, as you said, you got to play with a team, and I just don't think, I'd find myself at a time where enough people there to jump in and have fun. So no, it looks cool. I like what it's doing, but I won't be jumping into this one.
Very good. All right, then. That is the end of Games Interrogation and Deliberation. We're going to have an active reload, and then we'll be back with the news when I find the active reload button. It's right there. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. We are here now for the news segment. Unky, shall we kick in the newsroom door?
Let's do it.
Who has the right to remain newsworthy this week? Unky Dunky.
This one first up, we have from This Gen Gaming, 9 games leaving Xbox Game Pass in September 23. I'll run through them quickly. We are losing Train Sim World 3, Metal Hell's Singer on the Xbox Series and Xbox One, Fuchsia, Melodies of Steel, Sid Meier's Civilization 6, Tainted Grail Conquest, Origami 2, DC League of Super Pets, The Adventures of Crypto and Ace, and Danganronpa V3 Killing Harmony. None of those are causing me any issues. I'm sure they're probably not causing too many issues for you guys either.
They're not. Sorry, man. I just realized I don't even have the correct news story on screen. My apologies. There's the list right there. Metal Hellsinger is one that I would just recommend going hands-on with just because it's a pretty unique take. I didn't particularly enjoy the game as such, but I think if you consider yourself a gamer, you should at least play it one time just to understand what it's about, because it is bringing something new to the genre. Any there from your pool that you'd like to recommend, Billy?
No, I don't think so. I didn't really get into Metal Hellsinger either. It's the rhythm-based, as you know. It doesn't really float my boat. But the one that I did that maybe I can recommend, and I've put a bit of time into, and probably sad to see it go, I'll have to go and find a physical version now, is the Fuga Melodies of Steel, which is a bit of a different take on an RPG, and good story and good combat in that one.
Very good. All right, Anki, let's kick it off to news story 2, shall we?
News story 2, a surprise one, which I didn't expect to see. I thought we'd sort of saw our last update, but from Video Games Chronicles, Star Wars Jedi Survivor update adds a solid 60F on consoles and DLSS on PC. So this is something I have gone hands-on with. I saw the patch hit while I was at work and jumped on the PlayStation app and hit install, forgetting that Star Wars is 150 gig. Thank God I've got the terabytes on the PlayStation now, but got home, it was ready to go. Fired it up just to sort of see what it was all about. I think they've taken the feedback well, which is to essentially get rid of ray tracing in performance mode to bump that performance, and it seems to have done the job. Like running through that main area where I did have the frame issues initially, I think most people have those frame issues in that big main hub area towards the start of the game. It definitely runs way smoother now. A couple of hitches here and there if you try and do a whole bunch there, but jumping around to a couple of other planets and exploring that, I had sort of more flawless 60 frames per second. So it seems like they've done their job. So it might be something in the quieter periods when we don't have all these new gangbuster games there to play that I could see myself going back and potentially getting the itch to go platinum this game, because I don't think I've got too many to do to get this one done. I just found it very hard to sort of jump back in with that choppy frame rate. So, no, good to see they're going back and fixing that. Now, if only Final Fantasy 16 could do the same with their performance mode.
That would be nice, man. Yeah, to your point, I'll be going back to this one. I'm imagining around the Christmas break time before I get back to this, but it is a great upgrade. I'll update, excuse me. I look forward to going hands-on in about 5 months. How about you, Billy? Does this one sit well with you?
It's always good to see them jumping back into it. I guess it's one of those things. What did it come out 4 or 5 months ago? So I think for most of us, it's probably like you said. You're going to find it difficult to jump back into it at this stage with everything else that's going on at the moment. And would it have been worthwhile holding the game back a little bit to get it, or to get it in at release? I'm not sure. But it's just, I'm very similar with a lot of DLC. Is the moment's passed for me, and I played through it. I finished it. It's not something that I'd probably spend a lot of time on to go back and platinum. So I don't really see myself jumping back into it anytime soon.
Fair enough. I'll keep my eyes peeled for it come Christmas, though. Story 3 this evening, Unky.
Another thing from Bethesda. So it sounds like Bethesda Indiana Jones game will be revealed in 2024. It comes from an interview, I think, that Todd Howard was doing in relation to this, and he sort of alleged that we'll talk next year about this game when they pushed him for more details about it. So it looks like, they've announced it, I think it was last E3 period. It wasn't this one. I think it was last year we heard about this for the first time. It was in development by Machine Games, who gave us the Wolfenstein games. So awesome games. So I can't wait to see what they do with this. Is it going to be Xbox's sort of answer to Uncharted? I hope so. But it's very much harder to do it with an established character and franchise than it would be to do something where they've got free reign with Uncharted. Yeah. So I'd be very interested to see how they do it and what they could do, but I have all faith that Machine Games can make a good game. So
Harrison Ford in a wheelchair on a submarine for the first hour?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I worked in Wolfenstein, so why not?
I can't wait to get more details about this. Hopefully, it's not following the trend of the most recent film. Bully, your thoughts?
I think they've got a lot to work with in terms of story because they've got the young Indiana Jones stuff, they've got the movies. I think there's a fair bit of source material that they can work with there. I'm really looking forward to seeing this one when they do end up showing it.
Very good. All right, story for this evening, Unky. We've touched on a little bit of this earlier, haven't we?
Yeah, and speaking of things that hopefully follow the trend of movies, this one more so being on the good side, but it looks like the TMNT Mutant Mayhem video game is coming, and it's set after the film. I think it's been announced as coming next year. What doesn't get me excited is the developer. However, that being said, like they haven't made too many noteworthy games when I read them out. They've got stuff like My Friend Peppa Pig, Paw Patrol, so nice easy platinums for you, Bully. The Baby Shark game, but one that's not on this list. I was listening to a podcast earlier today. That DC Cosmic Shift or whatever, or Cosmic game that Bully 100%ed earlier this year, whatever that was called.
I can't even remember it. There was a long-winded title. I think Cosmic Heroes or something.
Something like that. But they're the same developers. And that game was a fun little game. I'm hoping this game's a little bit more, I'm going to say serious, but it's, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles than that game. But I'm hoping it's not a top-down thing and they get into the weeds. But they've mentioned that they're going to use the same art style in the movie, which I think is one of the best art styles I've seen in a movie. That sort of double down, that Spider-Verse sort of art style. And I just absolutely love the way they do it with Turtles. Easily my favourite movie I've seen this year.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It's up there. An hour and a half just feels like 10 minutes. It's that good.
Did it outrank Gran Turismo?
I haven't seen Gran Turismo, but I'm going to say yeah. I'm going to say yes, it does. For me, it outranks Across the Spider-Verse. So,
oh wow,
which is tough to do because that was a phenomenal movie as well. But
I loved it.
But it also didn't really end. So, whereas this one does. But no, I'm excited. When I heard this, I didn't expect anything else Turtles other than that last Ronin game that we sort of covered a couple of shows back. But so to get like a proper Turtles game, if they can give me just a good solid, there was that game Samurai Jack that came out not long ago that I really liked. If it's sort of like that, I'm more than happy to play something like that with the Turtles. So very excited. Anything Turtles for me. But if it was there's a slightly different developer, I'd probably be more happy.
Fair enough, man. I'm interested to see this when it comes out. Bully, your thoughts?
Oh, I'm the same. If it's I actually really like that Cosmic whatever it is DC Heroes. Obviously, I did.
I keep wanting to say Cosmic Shake, but that was SpongeBob.
SpongeBob. I actually really enjoyed that. It was quite. It had. It wasn't overly serious, and it had some quite humorous moments in it. So I think the Turtles would be right for a similar type game. My only concern is I hope it's not as much as I did enjoy the gameplay in that. I don't necessarily think it would translate overly well to a Turtles game if they were going to go with the same sort of gameplay style. I'd like to think that they'd mix that up a little bit, but otherwise, excited.
Fair enough.
DC Justice League Cosmic Chaos was that game.
There we go. Not the old Cosmic Shake.
No.
All right, now, avast you, mateys. What be happening with Skull and Bones?
I mean, it's not the official title of this news story, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say this game is going to get cancelled. Skull and Bones cancelled. You've heard it here first. No, Skull and Bones loses third creative director, reportedly still without a release date. I think they've got an open or just had a beta. Closed beta.
Just had one,
Just had one. Not sure if any of you guys managed to get in on that, but I don't know if anyone was keen or if they were, why they would be bothering. This game is doomed to fail. I see the merit bringing something like Suicide Squad out that I don't think they're going to change a whole bunch. That'll get the same amount of traction no matter what. This game, I don't know who's wanting to play it really, unless you're a massive Assassin's Creed Black Flag fan, which I was, but nothing.
You were 10 years ago when it came out.
Yeah, exactly. The shift combat wasn't my favourite bit about that game as it was. So, I don't know. This game's doomed to fail.
It's funny you mention that, though, because there's been rumours swirling around the last couple of weeks that they're doing a remake of Black Flag. So I think that for most people that would have any interest in it would actually prefer that.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's hilarious. I wonder whether they just slap an early access logo on this and push it out the door now. Just release whatever it is in its current state. It's early access, and if there's any interest, we'll actually finish it.
Knowing the way they're going, they'll release that early access the bloody day Spider-Man 2 comes out next month. Just to send it out to die.
That's a fair point. Good luck to them. I hope that one day it comes out and it's a playable game, but yeah, it's not looking great. Bully, any thoughts on this one, mate?
No, carry on.
All right, then. Now, I started these on screen already, Unky, but we are now back to Game Informer's list of the new releases for this week, mate. Over to you.
This week we have Chance of Sinar on PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC. That was on September 5. We have Rune Factory 3 on Switch, the special edition, September 5. We've talked about it in length tonight. Baldur's Gate 3, PS5, was out September 6. Early access was on the Sunday the 3rd, I believe. It's got a 9.5 from Game Informer, well-deserved score. Starfield, we've talked about that tonight, September 6, official release date. Also had early access last week, Xbox Series X and S and PC. 8.5 from Game Informer. I think that number should be higher, but that's just me.
Yeah, I'll put it a bit higher as well.
Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis is out on iOS and Android as of September 7. We have King's Bounty 2 on PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S. We have Fae Farm on Switch and PC, September 8, and NBA 2K24 PS5. The Xboxes, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC, September 8.
Now, are there any on this list that we haven't talked about and that you are purchasing, Unky or Bully?
I don't believe so. I might have a look at Final Fantasy on the iOS, actually.
Very good. What about you, Bully?
Look, maybe NBA, but the main thing that put me off it last year was that stupid story mode where you had to all you want to do is create your character and play a game, and it makes you wander around a town and do all these chores before it'll actually let you jump into a game. So, you know, if they've removed that and it's just gone back to the actual basketball, which is what everyone's buying the thing for, not some RPG style story.
That depends. If you can get some DLC and run around as a giant Ninja Turtle playing basketball, I'm all in.
Perfect. All right, gentlemen, that does it for the news this week, which brings us to everyone's favorite segment. It's the standoff. Who will fight?
Fighting. We've spoken about Bethesda tonight, so this is Best Bethesda, which with Starfield coming out this week, being a new IP for Bethesda, we are asking which existing franchise from Bethesda would we want a new game from the most?
Very good. Wait. Before you go into it, just a reminder to anyone watching in the audience as we go, if you like one of them, put your vote in that YouTube chat. Continue, Unky.
So the first franchise is Doom. So this covers all the Dooms. Obviously, the Doom 1 and Doom 2 that they brought out. Doom and Doom Eternal, I believe it was the sequel.
Doom Eternal, yep.
Arguably way better than I think anyone gave it credit for. I remember famously back in the day, the reviews didn't hit until the day of release, so everyone thought this game's going to be trash because Bethesda had a rule about embargoes and stuff, and I think they've loosened that just a little bit, especially with Starfield. That I think they released that to reviewers 2 weeks early.
Yep.
But no, it came out to resounding applause. Great first game, great sequel follow-up, which added mechanics, arguably maybe too many mechanics. I think I maybe preferred the first game with less of the platforming and more of the shooty. But really violent, really fun gun combat. You can't really find much else like games that do first-person shooting as well as Doom does. So, no, I don't know if there's been rumors it was Doom 3, but I would be very far-fetched if there's not one in development or, they're at least talking about it.
I certainly haven't heard anything, but I'm right there with you, man. I assume they'll make a third. I played both 1 and 2 and absolutely loved my time with both of them. I thoroughly enjoy the Doom franchise. Massive first-person shooter fan. Bully, did you play Doom and Doom Eternal recently?
Oh, I did. I was very late to the party, though. I only just started playing Doom because it was obviously on Game Pass about a month or two ago. So really enjoyed it. I haven't finished it off yet, and was waiting to finish that before I get into Eternal. But really enjoying it.
Yeah, fair enough. How are you enjoying those glory kills?
They're very, very. Yeah. I've got to make sure the kids aren't around when I'm doing them.
Yeah, they are glorious. All right, Unky, who's entrant 2 this week?
Entrant number 2, I believe it's Fallout.
It is indeed. This is the trailer for Fallout 4, but yes, the Fallout franchise.
So I really got into Fallout around sort of Fallout 3 and just fell in love. That's sort of where my first sort of love of Bethesda came into it. I don't even think I really sort of, knew anything about Bethesda until Fallout 3 hit, and I just fell in love with that game. And then sort of ever since that, so you knew Vegas, and then we had Fallout 4 and all that. So, and even Fallout 76, once it sort of got patched a bit, I actually really enjoyed it. I know some people completely shat on that game, and that, but Bethesda, to their credit, they stuck to it, kept adding content. They kept listening to the people playing their games. They added NPCs to their game, which was the main gripe at the start, where quest givers were just given by robots, and you're sort of coming after all the fun stuff's happened. But they just kept adding to it, and they're still adding to it today. And it's got performance patches for the next gen consoles and all that jazz. But no, I love the Fallout franchise. It's one of my favorite RPGs to jump into. Even with Fallout 4 being more of Fallout 3, that's kind of all I needed it to be good, was a better looking version of Fallout 3, because I just love that game. And yeah, I mean, some of the base building stuff they put in there is not really my cup of tea, but it's there for the people that do want it. And essentially, there's games you just create your own story anyway, which is what we're doing in Starfield at the moment. But this is sort of where that sort of, the love of this kind of gameplay sort of took hold for me. So I've got a massive love for Fallout. Would love to see a new Fallout in the series, but I know, Starfield, they've come out and said that's their baby. That's the game they've always wanted to make. So, which is what Fallout's led up to. Whether we get another one, I don't know, but I would love to see a new Fallout, whether it's a new Fallout Vegas, New Vegas sequel or whatever it is, whether it's even made by Bethesda, I don't know, but I'd love to see it.
Yeah, I'd be right there with you, man. I love the Fallout franchise, and a new entrant would be welcome, but Starfield really is filling that void for me. How about you, Billy?
It's funny you mentioned, obviously it goes hand in hand with Starfield, but that's probably what a little bit of, while I've been playing Starfield, is the setting out of the main Bethesda games. I've really enjoyed Fallout, the setting of it, and that's probably what while I'm playing through Starfield, I'm probably sitting there going, oh, I wish it was just a bit more of the setting of Fallout, or I wish it was somehow a bit more tied into the way Fallout plays.
If you ask them nicely, they might add Preston as DLC character to Starfield.
Oh, then I'll definitely stop playing then. No, but I agree. Fallout, Bethesda took it over and did Fallout 3 after the first two games, and yeah, I'm with you, Unky. Fallout 3 was probably what really roped me into Bethesda, and it was probably
Liam Neeson, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was Liam Neeson. It was probably about that stage that up until that point, you might know some games just or recognise companies through a splash screen at the start of the game, but that was probably the first time in my gaming life that I'd sort of started to pay attention to an actual developer and what they were doing and what other games they had out and that sort of stuff. So for me, it was Fallout 3 especially was really probably a seminal moment in my gaming life. I would have thought. So I'm always in for it. And we're almost 10 years since we've seen the last Fallout, mainline proper game, and I'm not going anywhere near Fallout 76. I'm giving that no kudos at all.
Very good. Well, how do you feel about the Elder Scrolls Entrant 3, Unky?
Elder Scrolls, another one. I remember jumping into Oblivion. I think it was almost a launch title for the Xbox 360 back in the day, and I remember wondering what this style thing was. I don't think I'd played an RPG like that style ever before, and just the vastness that I had, I kind of was a bit lost in it. And then it wasn't until I did some things in the game, I'm like, oh, this game actually does have normal game mechanics as well, because it felt sort of almost something different to what I'd played with the Western style games. And I don't know, it took its while to get its hooks to me, but when it did, I was all into that world. But it wasn't until sort of Skyrim hit where I was okay, well, this is where I think they were going with it, and where the vision always was, and they just didn't have the technology to do it. But I love Skyrim. A game as big as that, I mainlined most of that until spanning off and doing a lot of the side quests after. Whereas I know a lot of people play those games completely differently and go off and do all the side quests, but I felt myself drawn to that main quest and just absolutely loved it. I reckon I've bought Skyrim on, I don't know, 5-6 different devices at this point.
Yeah.
from VR, from Switch to VR to multiple consoles. Like, it's just ridiculous how many times they put this game out, and it gets better with each iteration. But arguably one of the most phenomenal ways of playing it that I've found is the VR. Like, being able to walk through that world in VR is just something else. Like seeing dragons fly over the top of you and walking through that world when all you've ever done is see it on a flat screen, I think was just a phenomenal experience. So I know it's a bit, we're trying to say which game we want next in the series, but they have announced this is in development, but I'll be surprised if we don't see this before I'm 50 at the moment.
Fair call. I love the Elder Scrolls series as well, but for me, Fallout just sits a little bit above it. How about you, Billy?
Well, mine goes back to one before that. So Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind, which was it was on the Xbox console as well as the PC, like the original OG Xbox. And that for me, I was probably the same as you with Oblivion, Unky, that the start of that game, you're on a ship. You basically you come off a ship and you literally just dropped in a world. There's not a lot of backstory to it. There's not a lot of what do I do? Where do I go? You've got to make your own fun and your own entertainment. And it's sort of, I won't say dumbed down, but it sort of simplified a lot of the quests and stuff in Oblivion, and then another step further in Skyrim. But certainly in Morrowind, when you were playing that, you literally there was no quest markers, there was none of that. It was literally you had to sit there and read through a diary entry and go, I think I have to go in this sort of area, and you would literally just go off and explore, and whatever you came across, and made your own journey that way. But yeah, I'm the same. And when I said before about Fallout not having an entry in 10 years, well, we're what 13 or 14 years past Skyrim.
But only about a couple of months past its most recent release, most likely.
Yeah, I was going to say, but that's the other thing is I don't know how much of in a hurry they are, because as you said, they keep releasing it. They keep making bucket loads of money off re-releases and definitive versions and VR versions and whatever else they're going to come up with.
Definitely be a race between this and G.E.A. 5 to see what's released on more things, I think.
And for how long they can stretch it out.
Yeah.
Very good. All right, entrant 4 this evening, Evil Within, Unky?
Yes, this is also a Bethesda game, a bit different from the other ones, but this is Shinji Megami. I believe he's the original Resident Evil maker, came out and made this with Bethesda, and I absolutely loved the first game. It was so horror. It was so Resident Evil, old school Resident Evil with the scares and stuff. And then number 2 came out, which was a very more polished version of the first one. But there's so much credit to the first game with the scares that it gives you and the feeling it does. It's a bit dirtier. It's probably the best way to put it than the second one. The second one's a bit more clean in its scares, which probably makes it less scary with the way it's more polished. And I think some of the jank in the first one is what makes it the classic that it is. But out of all these, because I know what I'm getting with all these games, I've got Starfield. For me, I'm looking at Evil Within and going, I really want a third one of this game. And it's going to be hard to get because, they gave us Ghostwire Tokyo and they completely flipped the script and gave us Hi-Fi Rush earlier this year. So great developer. They're creating some of my favourite games because Hi-Fi Rush, even though it came out as early as it is, that game is still fresh in my mind as one of my favourite games this year. Even with all the big releases, that game's still in my mind as I can't believe how much fun I had with that game. So the fact that those developers are bringing out that stuff, I would love to see them now come back to Evil Within after now putting out that. So, I would love a new one of this series.
Fair call. The Evil Within was far too horrific for me, so I've never touched it. But, Bully, your thoughts on it?
I'll probably put about 10 hours into it. I think it was just one of those games that I sort of picked up on the cheap and put a little bit of time into it, but ultimately got drawn away from it. But I agree. That's probably the best description of it, Unky. It's a dirty version of Resident Evil. In both the looks and the way it plays and all that sort of stuff. I quite enjoyed what I did play of it. I never got to the second one, but it's probably one of those ones that's on the list to get back to at some point if I can ever find the time to make some serious dent in the backlog.
Perfect. I love it. All right. Entrant 5 this week. Now, this one, I've played them both, but they've never quite got their hooks in me. Dishonored, Unky.
Yeah, I'm the same. I've played them, enjoyed them. Not sure if I've actually ever finished any of the Dishonored, and I've played them, and I can appreciate what everyone loves about the immersive sim of Dishonored and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, for me, it's never fully clicked. I know it's got some of the best stealth mechanics going on out there, and I do love a stealth game, but I sort of found the mix between the stealth and the gun combat not as satisfying as other games to play like that. But no, definitely.
I'll tell you what the stealth was missing, man.
Chuck the goggles on. But no, they're very pretty games. The worlds they created are absolutely beautiful. It tells really cool stories, and some of the level design, there's that clock level where I think you're moving through all the moving pieces in that level, and it's just so well designed and so cool to look at. And it's got this sort of not realistic, sort of hyper realistic sort of style to it. Yeah, just a really cool game. But I would be thinking they probably maybe have discussed making another one. I know it's done well. I know the second game got some DLC that was actually really well reviewed and received as well. So whether that's where they leave it for now, and obviously all their focus is on Starfield, and there's probably a lot of other franchises they might go to first. But this did well. I don't know how well it ever sold, but for me, it never really clicked as good as I could see that it was.
Yeah, I can appreciate that for some people it really did click. There certainly are big advocates out there, but I'm not one of them. How about you, Blake?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I didn't probably play as much as the second one as I did the first, but it's funny you say that it didn't really click with you, Troy, because I know you're a big fan of the Hitman series, and
Oh yes.
you can see a lot of the design elements in each of the levels for Dishonored. You can go about it in a myriad of different ways. You can either, as you said, go all out attack and just start shooting people, or you can do the stealth, and even within the stealth, there's different ways to do it. So you can sneakily take out different enemies, or you can sort of work your way around them. There's different ways that you can open up paths depending on how you explore the world and pick up different items to unlock doors, or to access different areas. So I really enjoyed that part of it. I have to say though, my memory of it is probably that first main level in Dishonored 1. I reckon I've played that probably 20 times, but as you said, and then each time I might have done the second or third level, but never gone through and actually finished it.
Very good. All right then. What about Entrance 6 this week, Unky?
Entrance 6, Prey. So, I mean, they've only done one of these, but they did do a DLC as well called Moon something. I can't remember what it was. It's something to do with the moon, but it was a sort of roguelike version of Prey. But this is something that did click slightly more for me than the Dishonored. It's very, again, sim driven in the way the game handles all its, being able to go through the levels and, do different ways to solve different things, and like the mechanics it had with being able to sort of go into and mimic and pretend to be different things. And it had better combat for me, and a more compelling story that was told a bit more structurally than, say, something like Dishonored. And I really enjoyed that. I love the space station. I did finish this game, so there's obviously that it drew me in. I would love to see a new Prey and see what they could do with it. I think it's highly underrated as a game. I think famously IGN gave it like a 4 or something out of 10. I couldn't believe it. And ever since that time, like, most people that talk about this game talk about it positively, because it's such a cool, different experience to a lot of these other type of games. But I love Prey. I would love to see another one.
Yeah, for myself, I've only put in maybe an hour into the game because it was on Game Pass at one point, and there was like a weekly challenge to get to a certain point or do a certain number of stealth kills or something. So I played it long enough to complete that achievement, but then bounced off it. I've never put any real time into it. How about you, Bully?
No, I haven't really put a lot of time into it. Moon Crash is the DLC, which I'm just having a look at. Is from most people is actually better received than the base game itself. So, and then I was just having a quick look through the IGN review. So I think they've gone through and up. So they've got a redone review for the updated patch, because the original one, they're saying that they reviewed it on the PC and came across the same game breaking bug consistently. Okay. So that'd probably explain why they scored it so low in the first place. But the problem is, and as you said before, is you really only get one chance, and we saw that with Redfall to release. And if it comes out to some poor reviews, albeit if the game is okay, but it's just got some bugs that haven't been patched out to start with, you almost lost your audience off the bat.
Well, yeah, the biggest example that comes to mind for that, and I'm blanking on the name of it, but the motorbike game from Sony that never got a sequel, Days Gone.
Oh,
that was once again just a day one patch that wasn't there for the reviewers, sunk the game, but that patch changed the vast majority of it.
Yeah, I love that game. I platinumed it. I thought it was amazing.
Yeah, you and I both, man. That was a thing of beauty. I'm devastated we won't be seeing a sequel, but we're talking about Bethesda. Who's Entrance 7, Unky?
Entrance 7, we've sort of alluded to it before, Wolfenstein and Wolfenstein 2, and they've had Young Blood, which was terrible, but which is unfortunate because, that kind of left a bad taste in people's mouth because it was not a good copy of Wolfenstein or not a good version of Wolfenstein. But numbers 1 and 2, phenomenal first-person shooters. Arguably some of the best first-person shooters you can play on the console, especially now bumped up resolutions and all, and frame rates and stuff now on the series and PS5. But what games, what great stories. Just the gunplay is awesome. It's violent as all hell. You start the game, number 2 in a wheelchair. Blazkowicz gets his head cut off in one of the game. I can't remember which one it is. And he still manages to survive. Number 2, you've got to go to the Mars or something and fight and kill Hitler. Like, it's got everything. Like, the story in this game is just carries you all the way through. The characters are awesome. They're all likable. You got sort of character moments where you're going to choose to keep someone alive or not, and then that person will stay alive throughout the whole game. The other person stays dead, but it's a character beat. And I love the Wolfenstein games. I think we've heard rumors of a third. already in development, alongside Indiana Jones also being under development by the same developer. But I'd love to see a Wolfenstein 3, and I think it'd be incredible.
Yeah, you and I both, man. Wolfenstein 1 and 2, a thing of beauty. Shout out from my point of view just to the upgrade paths and the getting certain kills with certain weapons in certain ways to unlock. I really dug the way that skill tree worked in both these games. How about you, Billy?
Yeah, I really loved it. It's funny when we talked about Doom before, because the original ones that released on the PC weren't really my jam, but Wolfenstein 3D was. Well, I played that. I would have sunk thousands of hours into that as a young kid on the PC. And when you talk about the two newer versions, I guess, or the updated versions between Wolfenstein and Doom, I still think for me, Wolfenstein is the better game. I think the story, as you mentioned, is fantastic. I reckon the gunplay is as tight as you'll get in a first-person shooter, and just the different, as you said, the different settings. Like the original one was sort of playing through Europe, and then Wolfenstein 2 was playing through, in essence, a version of the US that was taken over by Germany in an alternate end to the World War II. So I really loved it, and even I think some people weren't really on board with it, but just some of those flashbacks in number 2 for Blazkowicz as to how he got where he was, and and his life growing up as a kid and that sort of stuff really cemented how he developed as a character, which is kind of strange.
I was going to say, it grounds him as a character as opposed to something like a Doom or so that's just there to kill for kill's sake. Like it gives him a bit more context for what he's doing. It just adds so much to that character in the story.
And it's not something that you really get in a first person shooter. You might get the basics of a story and the main thrust of it is just working through each level. But to have that as a background, I think really elevates the game to another level.
Yeah, fantastic points, boys. That is our 7 entrants. So I'll throw it to you, Unky. Where are your chips sitting this evening?
Well, for me, I know I'd love to see out of all these, because we've got Starfield, so I've got my fix of your Fallouts and Elder Scrolls and stuff at the moment. And then you go between the shooters, I'd probably rather a Wolfenstein over a Doom. Wolfenstein does stealth better than Dishonored in terms of shooting, so I'd rather that. Prey, realistically, I don't think we're going to get. I'd prefer a Wolfenstein over a Prey. So for me, I'm flipping anywhere between Evil Within and Wolfenstein for a next installment.
My chips are fully on Wolfenstein. How about you, Billy?
Oh, as much as I love that, and I understand what you're saying, Unky, that you've sort of had that fixed, but I just can't go past either the Elder Scrolls game, the new one, or Fallout. I can't get enough of those games. I absolutely love those.
Fortunately, mate, you can play Starfield almost immediately.
If only it was Fallout.
Well, if you're not going to budge there, Bully, I think it's still a 2-way tie for Wolfenstein, isn't it, Unky? Or are you not?
No, I could be swung to Wolfenstein. I think that's probably, if we're going to vote, we can almost put another parameter. Which one do we actually think we're probably going to get sooner out of all these? I actually think Wolfenstein's. Oh yeah, it's a different question, but I think if you back that up, I think I would most likely want to get and think we could get Wolfenstein.
I think we'd most likely get Doom next, but I would prefer a Wolfenstein. I think that's more fertile ground for storytelling. Sorry, Bully, you don't win tonight, but Wolfenstein, a winner is you for this week's Standoff, which, of course, Bully does bring us over to the final segment. It's audience integration, mate. What has been happening in that there YouTube chat, please?
Well, unfortunately, not a lot, because I think for some reason YouTube chat's crashed again, like it did a couple of weeks ago. So
we've been having trouble with that the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I haven't been getting anything in there. So apologies to anyone that has tried to jump in there, but it looks like YouTube is doing us no favours this evening.
Dang, I will double check here, but if... I've got the same thing. I've just got an errored out screen. So apologies, viewers, if you were chatting with us in real time. YouTube isn't playing the game for some reason the last couple of weeks. Sorry about that, but please comment in the video if you like, and we can get back to you next week from there. But that is us. We are Donkey. Thank you very much for joining us this evening, mate. Great work this evening.
It's my pleasure, mate. I'm back off to the stars.
Woohoo! Bully, thank you for joining us this evening, mate. Top effort.
Thank you very much, lads.
Great work. And Unky Donkey, what else can you do with Geek Aloud?
Like it, subscribe it, and you'll never miss it.
Oh, that was luck.
Hey, that's something.
donkey.
Okie dokie.